Divine Emperor of Death. Chapter 1, Prologue. Yes. I finally managed to obtain it. A person exclaimed, with a voice full of excitement but also exhaustion as he held a glowing stone on his palm. The voice was quite soft but also had the ability to put a genuine smile on the face of someone who heard it. His hair that should have been ink black appeared dull white while his straight nose made him look sharp. But his lips were dried that also made look like a cool homeless spirit. This person's haggard appearance was overlaid with a bit of wrinkle on his cheeks yet made him look young at the same time, like a youth who had aged a bit. It's been 10 long years since I, Tian Long, managed to obtain the death book. A deep glint flickered in his eyes, and the thought that he had managed to obtain the item that he had been searching for more than 5 years left him with the feeling of excitement and nostalgia. I have only used the death book to kill my only enemy back then, and I haven't used it for killing since then. Numerous scenes flashed past his eyes. Feeling the passage of time, he gently sighed. On the one hand, he had only used the death book to kill his one and only enemy while in the other, he managed to carefully traverse his way into succeeding in his endeavor, the matter of searching for this item without even having to dirty his hands. It's time to go back to my homeland and pull off this crazy idea that has been gnawing at my heart since 8 years ago. Walking out of a cave, he proceeded to leave the mountains to get back to the airport, which was situated in a city a few kilometers away. He finally cast a look at the virgin mountain range not trespassed by anyone to his knowledge, nor did he see a single soul who engaged in the sports of trekking in this place. Then without encountering many problems, he descended down the mountains the whole way before encountering a vehicle on the elevated roadway. Luckily, he managed to hitch a ride along the way to the city. After arriving at the airport, he boarded the airplane and returned to his home country, China. After returning to his home and resting for a while, he did nothing as he sat on the sofa, feeling refreshed from the hot water bath. However, he started to have second thoughts about his plan at the last minute. Numerous matters flashed past his eyes. The acquaintances he formed a little connection with but didn't dare to improve it due to his near-death situation. TCH. It's do or die. I don't have much choice. In any case, I don't have much time to live in this world anyways. He composed himself. He packed his things and went out of the house, locking it behind with 2 more locks than the usual, making it look like he had gone for a vacation again or had sealed the house for some reason. All right, it's time to leave this world. Silently muttering to himself, Tian Long left for the place that has many rumors, including that it's connected to another world. Although he heard rumors, he did his homework and flushed out the possibility that it might be fake. Honestly, my chances of crossing over are pretty low, way low. I only thought of this idea because having only a few more years left to live made me feel hopeless and empty. After all, I want to live more. He thought, introspecting his own thoughts about this mad plan and his actions. After arriving at an ancient temple in a certain region in China, he searched the whole place for any unusual signs. Unfortunately, he found none, and the day was almost about to end. This place is notably abandoned yet it's kept clean, why is that? Tian Long muttered in an inquisitive tone to himself. Being alone for a long time, he had developed the habit of talking to himself, both mentally and physically. After seeing that he hadn't found anything for today, he decided to just sleep and continue the search tomorrow. However, just as he was sleeping in the makeshift tent that he had set up, a sound startled him awake. Who's there? Tian Long shouted as he turned cautious. Whoa! Don't jump scare me, old man! A young man exclaimed. Tian Long examined the young man with his eyes, but hearing that he was called an old man, his eyelids started to twitch in annoyance. Nowadays, people calling him an old man was a common occurrence, and he didn't put much thought into it since his vitality was waning due to his lifespan being reduced. Who are you, little boy? Tian Long asked even though he knew the answer. Me? I'm Xiao Yi. The young man replied. He looked as if he was not at all bothered or scared about by the presence of an old man in this ancient temple. After all, a person could also mistake Tianlong's countenance to be the same as a pale ghost. Just when Xiao Yi was about to ask with a curious and confused expression on his face, he was interrupted by Tianlong. "Why are you here?" "Me?" Xiao Yi was first taken aback as he thought of asking the same question. He blinked and then answered, "I'm hired by the nearby temple to clean this place every week and patrol once in a while." Hearing that, Tianlong was astonished. "Isn't this place abandoned?" "Yeah, it was, but it's now the property of the nearby temple. They bought it about a month ago." Xiao Yi replied in a casual tone. "Pub future ads." "Oh, I see." Tianlong nodded. "Now that you understand that it's private property, shouldn't you be leaving?" Xiao Yi questioned in an annoyed manner. Yeah, once it's done, I'll leave. It's pretty late right now." Tianlong yawned and said. "Reasonable, I don't want you camping out here tomorrow. Old man, just leave after resting." "All right." Saying so, he went back to his tent. A few minutes later, after routine patrolling, Xiao Yi left the ancient temple. From the transparent part of the tent, Tianlong saw him leave. "Ah, how young. He is rather nice inwardly even though he appeared to be rude and pretty blunt." He felt that he had rather managed to see through the young man in a glance. Still, what is he doing here at midnight? Patrol once in a while? Do people usually pick this time to patrol? Tianlong chuckled as he thought, or was he having a rendezvous with a woman or something? His brows creased for a moment. "Looks like I don't have any time left to sleep. This worn-out body of mine can't take this anymore." Shouting in his mind, he stormed out of the tent and started searching the place again. Switching on one of the numerous torchlights he brought and hid in the tent, he started looking around for any kind of unusual signs in the place he hadn't searched for yet. There were many statues of lions and tigers, but they were all different in a way that he couldn't put his finger on. There were even murals that were depicting some kind of history. However, the statues and the murals were all more or less shattered, making the ancient temple look more like a ruined temple. An hour passed since he continued his search, from the time Xiao Yi left. Moving around, Tianlong entered another one of the many wide rooms. He moved towards the front of a wall and started tapping around. Talk talk. As he kept tapping around the wall, a muffled kind of sound echoed across the room. Tianlong blinked, and the next moment, his dried-up lips widened into a smile. "Yes. Found it." He pushed that certain part of that wall, which created a muffled sound. An underground door opened in the room, which made Tianlong glance at it instantly. He checked if it bore some traps for quite some time, being a bit patient. An hour later, he couldn't find any traps, and that made him feel a bit assured. If he were to lose his life even before crossing to another world, then he didn't know how many people here who were in the know would laugh at his dead body. Ensuring that were no dangers to be found with his current expertise, he then started to descend the underground door. He encountered a lot of stairs leading down and arrived in front of an iron door etched with some kind of decrepit patterns. Tianlong stared at the switch right beside the iron door and yanked it down. The iron door opened up, and he entered the underground area, lighting up space with the torchlight in his hand. An unfamiliar and eerie sight came into his view. Tianlong gasped in astonishment as he saw the unknown formation, which was like a circle. The outer circle appeared spherical, while the inner circle looked oval with an eye on it. It looked like a demonic eye that almost gave him the chills. "Oh, this must be the formation which makes this ancient temple unusual enough to be rumored as a ghost temple." There were indeed people who came here for fun and found this place, making it rumored to be a temple that worshipped evil gods. They spread the information but never came back, and neither did people come to check this place out of fear. In any case, it was just a local myth that didn't garner much attention from the authorities. Tianlong muttered and walked towards the formation as he arrived at the eye of the formation. "That's a creepy-looking eye all right. I should probably be in the center of this formation to increase my chances. The rumors that were circulating around were mainly related to ghosts, but the moment the picture of this formation circulated throughout the internet, it was quickly taken down. However, Tianlong noticed it in a timely manner and even jotted down the name of the ancient temple in his notepad since he was on the lookout. Originally, he only thought of it as a prank, but noticing the mysterious groups he had been keeping an eye on behaving like they had been fed ecstasy pills, he was quite sure that this was the place he was looking for from 8 years ago. Tianlong took out a stone from his backpack, which emitted a faint green and purplish otherworldly light. It was the item he found before returning to China. The Transmigration Stone. Tianlong's eyes shone brightly under the illumination as he muttered. At least, that was what the others called it since it rumored to be capable of hosting souls in it. Ads by Pub Future. Pub Future ads. If the characters of the nearby temple knew if that I had the stone, would they become mad? Tianlong laughed loudly. That nearby temple which Xiao Yi mentioned is one of the factions he had his eye on, but the matter of them purchasing this ancient temple seemed to be so secretive that he didn't manage to even hear a word of it. He then walked to the stone that looked like a podium, an obvious place to keep the switch to activate the formation. I like it. The switch itself was half spherical in shape, and it kept glowing. Does this mean they have charged this formation already? Perfect! Tianlong exclaimed. The temple nearby painstakingly used its resources to charge it. This formation took at least 2 years to charge to a certain level, which Tianlong didn't know about. If he knew, he certainly wouldn't have approached this place that easily because of the uncertainties involved. But, why did they charge this formation? It can't be that they are warmly welcoming me? Is it? Tianlong was deeply in doubt and couldn't help but joke. He pondered about this for a while but creased his brows. Thinking about this is useless. After I activate this formation, either I die or live in another world. Tianlong stomped the ground and stopped his indecisiveness. He took a deep breath before reaching out to his inner pockets over his shirt and took out the death book as he exhaled. It's time. He took out a pen and positioned above the death book. His right arm stiffened in place while his fingers which held the pen quickly moved. Tianlong. After the activation of the formation and during the space-time travel, his soul gets jolted out from his body, then enters the Transmigration Stone. After reaching the other end, his soul possesses a weak body that is below 20 years of age using the Transmigration Stone and, after 5 minutes, dies of a heart attack. Hiss! Tianlong drew in a cold breath of air as his heart palpitated in nervousness. Tumultuous waves rose in his heart as his blood boiled, threatening to overwhelm his mortal heart and mind. To use the death book on himself, he had to write his own name. The death book can control and kill people to a certain extent, meaning that it is capable of manipulating the soul, so it should be able to control the soul to quite an extent. He consoled himself as he thought. It's fine, I will be tying the Transmigration Stone behind my head, and there's not much distance between my soul and the stone, so it shouldn't be a problem for the death book to succeed. If only my theory is correct, that is. His hands shook as he almost dropped the death book. After all, he just put an end to himself if things didn't go the way he thought it would. The moment he wrote his name on the death book, he knew that he would undoubtedly meet his end. He cannot extend his lifespan with the death book because he had tried it on people who were going to die before. So writing his name on it is just killing himself at this point. He didn't know how much time he had left to live, but judging by how he lost his vitality, he inferred he had 1 or 2 years at best. That 5-minute leeway was just for him to test. To test if the death book still worked on the other side. If it worked, then he would die in 5 minutes. If he didn't die in 5 minutes, then he would die within 2 years due to his waning lifespan. Tianlong felt that his lifespan being crippled applied to his soul as well. However, he also felt that the crippling of lifespan didn't affect his body directly but was a byproduct of affecting his soul. After all, a rather famous doctor had found him to be an enigma, since that doctor couldn't find the reason for his rapidly aging body even though Tianlong was just below his 30s. Hence, Tianlong thought that his limited lifespan directly affected his soul, which in turn made his body experience an enormous drop in vitality. That's why it's also a do-or-die situation for him. He felt that he should die quickly rather than waste 2 years in a new body before dying because of his crippled lifespan. That would be just too pitiful, perhaps even pathetic. This plan came to his mind when he completely realized that the Death Book was capable of controlling the soul to manipulate people other than directly killing them. He had also included in his plan about the fact that the Death Book can arrange strange coincidences, so he felt that it could make the Transmigration Stone search for a rather appropriate body to possess. In short, his entire plan to live relied on the fact that the Death Book will stop working the moment he reached the other side. He was relying on pure luck and unconfirmed facts. Tianlong's legs shook uncontrollably. Damn! Stop getting cold feet already, I've done it now, and there's probably only 2 years left for me to live. There's no going back. Tianlong expressed a determined expression on his face and patted his thighs before he started the formation. As the underground area trembled, space-time fluctuations appeared, activating a vertical space-time passage. Tianlong went to the eye of the formation immediately and left his fate to luck. He looked at the iron door one last time before feeling like a traveler. Goodbye, Earth. Explore 36 BHK luxury residences with retail, clubhouse and more. Launching 2 BHK sports-themed homes at Hiranandani in Panvel. Spacious 4 BHK at Hiranandani Panvel from 3.01 Cr. Bzzz. Tianlong got instantly absorbed into the space-time tunnel. However, the moment he entered, he suffered a fate extremely worse than people getting crushed by a huge rock. He became enormously pressured by the spatial tunnel. His body felt like being shredded by thousands of blades, causing him to scream in pain. Arg! Is this spatial tunnel not stable? I'm doomed. Tianlong saw his hand disintegrating by the chaotic spatial turbulence. Haha, it's over. Letting out a faint laugh, he looked at his disintegrating shoulder. Just when his shoulder started to disintegrate, his soul jolted out of his body and entered the Transmigration Stone. Tianlong didn't notice the Death Book being shredded to dust. A black shadow flew out from it and also entered the Transmigration Stone. He passively observed his body being disintegrated into nothingness, which made him feel nauseous, wanting to puke, but he couldn't as he was in his soul form. The Transmigration Stone then flew in the space tunnel, encountering many spatial storms that made him feel like he was traveling on a tiny boat surrounded by a colossal storm without any sight of an island in the distance. Tianlong couldn't figure how much time had passed. He was listless throughout the whole journey, mourning the loss of his body and the Death Book. The Death Book he had tried harming before but never made a dent on, actually disintegrated. He had been able to tear its pages in the past, but as for damaging the cover, he had not been able to do it, not even once. Its disintegration actually made him lose half hope for the future. Initially, he had just wanted the Death Book only to stop working, but never did he imagine that it would disintegrate in this spatial tunnel. If his soul form were to have eyes, there was no doubt that it would look dull about now. Even then, he could still observe. However, he couldn't even perceive at this time as his surroundings were completely black, only making him capable of feeling his existence that was still alive in a sense. After some unknown time, the Transmigration Stone finally flew out of the spatial tunnel, arriving in a brand new world. Meanwhile, on Earth. Who activated the formation? The nearby temple's head priest flew into an angry fit and started breaking the furniture beside him. Check the abandoned temple immediately. The head priest shouted out loud. Many people in mysterious robes moved away to check the abandoned temple quickly. The head priest then calmed down after a minute and then harumphed. Humph, I don't know who activated the formation, but traveling in it is useless. Countless experiments have been done, and we don't even know if a person has managed to reach the other side. Sometimes, the body disintegrates even before one enters that incomplete and unstable formation. It is useless. What do you mean by useless? Suddenly, a voice could be heard coming out of a bald man who appeared out of nowhere. We have confirmed that it is indeed connected to another world through various means. If only we had the transmigration stone, which can host a soul, we might perhaps be able to reach the other side. The bald man sighed gently. Humph! What use is there to have the stone? If you can't move the soul to the stone, it is still useless. Hat, you may not have a method to move your soul, but I do. The bald man sneered. Too bad, the transmigration stone appears every 1,000 years, and we have used up all we had on experiments. Judging by the time it last appeared, it should have appeared by now. Quick, search for it. I know. The head priest replied with an annoyed expression. Suddenly, a man came sprinting before stopping at a respectful distance. Head priest, we found Xiao Yi outside the temple, and he. The man hesitated. He what? The head priest looked quite impatient. He. The man's forehead was stricken with black lines, his facial expression full of hesitance. Quick, out with it. He was doing a woman under a tree nearby the abandoned temple but escaped once he saw us. The head priest became stunned while the bald man started to laugh as he rubbed his beard. Kill both of them and feed them to the dogs. The head priest had coldness flickering in his eyes as he echoed. However, the man who came to report was trembling from head to toe. He. Head priest. What? That woman. Is your illegitimate daughter? Asterisk Pui. Asterisk. The head priest's eyes widened before he sprayed a mouthful of blood and collapsed while the bald man laughed out loud like a madman. Chapter 2, New World. The transmigration stone finally disintegrated in the skies and generated a green, purplish glow to wrap around Tianlong's soul. The radiance then suddenly shot towards in a certain direction, faster than the standard speed of light. In a place few kilometers away from the transmigration stone that appeared in the middle of nowhere a few seconds ago. Not good, he's not going to make it. A middle-aged man sighed, his expression was full of gloom. His pupils were trembling, but it looked like it was out of fear rather than sadness. This middle-aged man stood wearing a blue armor with a tiger's image imprinted on it. Other than the armor being intimidating, it was quite damaged, looking ruined. He's been in a coma ever since you found him. Is it even worth to care that much for a child you don't even have any relations with, Gray? Another middle-aged man with the same blue armor asked. I arbitrarily picked him up, and then I should be the one to take care of him. Shut your mouth, Mel. Gray snapped back. His loose red hair made only one of his eyes visible. He possessed an irritated expression on his face that instantly made Mel's expression turn ugly. That's it. I had enough of your righteous act, Gray. You don't even do the things our captain commands properly, and all you do is take care of that child. Is that child your illegitimate son? Mel shouted in anger. However, to Gray, Mel just couldn't help but find trouble once again. Gray's eyes became a little cold. He unsheathed his sword out of his scabbard as the blade reflected the sunlight. I know you have some enmity with me, Mel, so stop finding fault with me time and time again. If you have the guts, let's end this once and for all. You think I am afraid of you? I'll show you who's going to obtain the captain's status after our captain retires in our Blue Tiger mercenaries. Mel also unsheathed his sword, taking a battle stance to fight. Hearing that Mel indirectly accepted the fight, Gray shot out with an unbelievable speed for his current cultivation base. He created a blinding light with his sword that instantly covered the whole area with brightness. What? A new battle technique? Mel momentarily went stiff. He almost peed his pants when he saw his vision being obstructed by the light. He didn't move since he couldn't see as his eyes were blinded and even experienced momentary pain in his eyes because of the light. And at the subsequent moment, a unique glow dimmed by the brightness released by the battle technique shot to the child who had just stopped breathing momentarily. Both of them who were entangled in the battle didn't notice the strange phenomenon. Pub Future adds. Mel opened his eyes only to see a sword in front of his neck. He could feel his life slipping out of his hands, or it was better to say his neck. He started shivering involuntarily out of fear, afraid for his life. His lips trembled, wanting to talk but couldn't. "I think I had enough of your provocation, moron," Gray coldly uttered. His arm moved, and just when he was going to sever Mel's head off, a voice sounded, prompting him to stop. "Wait. TCH, it's the captain," Gray muttered as he backed off. This was rather a critical time, and he had no leisure to bother with Mel or the captain. Meanwhile, Tianlong, who had entered the child's body, started to feel warm but disoriented at the same time. Tianlong faced absolutely no resistance when he entered the body. It was as if the child's soul didn't exist in this body in the first place. However, he felt rather weak but at the same time, felt something inwardly, a warm, pleasurable, and a relaxing sensation. Is the transmigration stone healing this child's weak body? At the same time, Tianlong couldn't believe the fact that this child's body is his own from now on. It was such a fantasy that even he felt disoriented from reality for the moment. However, his calm thinking still operated his mind even while he felt slightly unreal. "Haha, I'm saved. I'm saved. Captain, Gray tried to kill me for real. Kill him. He's a traitor," Mel exclaimed full of happiness and framed Gray without even caring for his own image. It was as if he became crazy for the moment. "Is that so?" The captain walked to where Mel was pathetically shouting. Just when Mel thought that he could get his revenge, a fist appeared in front of his face, making his eyes widen in shock. Boom! The captain punched with force, not holding back at all. Mel's cheeks slightly caved as he flew 2 meters away from where he stood, crashing on a wall. The wall did not completely break but held Mel. Gray blinked to this scene, not understanding the gist of it, feeling confused as to why the captain didn't protect Mel this time. "Why?" Mel, who was stuck on the wall, muttered with a dumbfounded tone while the pain he felt made him feel quite humiliated. Ads by Pub Future. Pub Future ads. "You think I don't know your ploy? How many times have I told you not to mess with Gray?" Captain reproached Mel and turned to look at Gray. "Gray, please forgive my nephew Mel, he won't do this again, and I will personally handle the punishment for him." He slightly bowed. Gray nodded his head and didn't say anything. He could only accept his hardships out here and do his best currently. However, the situation seemed rather hopeless for a long time, with the child's health weakening over all these years. The captain sighed at his gesture before his eyes imperceptibly flashed. "By the way, did you see anything glowing around here?" "The only thing glowing here was my sword." Gray gave a harumph. "Not th. All right," the captain suddenly stopped giving information. He thought he had found a treasure and so he wasn't willing to share it with anyone. Tianlong, who possessed his new body, started sweating a little when he heard their speech. Not because he heard the captain mention the glow but because he couldn't understand anything they said. "Is my fate so terrible? Of all the weak people under 20 out there, why a child? I couldn't even take care of myself in this state. I'm doomed." Tianlong had a listless expression on his face. He looked upwards, towards the cloudy sky which looked similar to his fate, gloomy as ever. The little sunlight that fell on his face failed to provide him warmth. He suddenly made a determined face to keep on living in this world, which was quite cute in itself. However, there was still the matter of 5 minutes, so he was rather waiting for that moment to pass. Although the death book had disintegrated, the damage to his soul was already done, so he remained doubtful on whether if he would survive the 5-minute time limit. Gray turned around and returned to where the child was lying down with his back. He was instantly astonished to see that the child was awake. Kid. Can you hear me? Are you fine? Gray shouted in excitement as he kneeled beside the child. Calm down, Gray. He's just a kid who was in a coma ever since the time you found him. Do you truly expect him to talk? The captain chuckled. Ah, right, I just lost myself in happiness, sorry. Gray replied in a slightly embarrassed tone. All right, take care of the kid, I got things to do. The captain bid farewell and left. His eyes flashed with a deep glint as his head moved left and right, trying to find the source of the glow. Kylie Minogue's real story will make you sob. Her beauty. What the hell are these guys talking about? I can't understand. What language is this? Tianlong's mind only after calming down did calmly try to make sense of the situation. Actually, where is this place and who is this child? He then looked at the middle-aged, who seemed rather worried about him. Could this person be this child's father? Suddenly Tianlong's glabella, the prominence between his eyebrows, started throbbing painfully. Arg! Kid! What's wrong? Gray panicked as he looked at the child, shout in pain, oh no! He felt his body going cold. What is this black thing in front of my eyes? Tianlong saw an eerie sight in front of him. His vision suddenly disappeared, and it became pitch black as if lost all sight, but a moment later, the pitch black became an anomaly in his view. A rather familiar anomaly if he should say. Tianlong tragically screamed as he kept holding his head until he fainted from the immense pain. Gray, who panicked quickly became eerily composed as he saw that the child stopped suffering. He checked the child's pulse and heaved a sigh of relief. He's just fainted, thankfully. Perhaps, he just got scared of my face. It makes sense. After all, it's the first time I'm seeing him open his eyes. This child sure does like to keep me hanging on a thread. He laughed ruefully and sighed as he thought about the hardships he had faced until now. It's almost this child's third birthday, good thing he woke up before that or else I would have had my head severed. Noticing the coincidence, Gray thanked the heavens. He then carried Tianlong to his room and made him sleep in his bed. He then sat before the table and wrote a letter in clean strokes, imprinting it along with a somewhat moderately patterned secret seal. He stood beside the window and whistled. A beautiful pigeon flew through the window and stood on Gray's shoulders. Its eyes looked sharp, and it rather had an imposing presence when compared to its tiny stature. Gray then tied the letter to the pigeon's leg. The next moment, the pigeon then flew away from his shoulder to its predetermined destination. That's about it. My mission is finally going to be over soon. If everything goes smoothly, I guess. Gray had experienced too many hardships in these 2+ years. He had used every coin on him to look after this child, leaving him to be worse than a beggar. He had no choice but to join a mercenary group to support the child and himself. It's been almost 3 years since I left the Empire, and hopefully, the tide has crossed over, and if it hasn't, then we'll both die. He again laughed ruefully and collapsed on the floor, his eyes completely shut, making him appear as if he was dead. However, he rather let out a sound snore in a few seconds. For the first time in his life after accepting the mission handed down to him personally, Gray peacefully slept. Chapter 3, Awakening. After 3 days had passed, Tianlong still hadn't woken up. Constantly suffering from pain in his head during this time, he looked as if he had been suffering from a nightmare. What happened to this kid? Is he suffering from some illness? But the apothecary I hired told he was perfectly healthy for his age, which is unusual in itself because he's been in a coma from the time he was born. Is the heavens helping us? Gray murmured as he found it difficult to understand this situation. Whatever, I'll just report it to the higher UPS as it is. He opened the door and left the room. After a few moments of silence in the room, a child groggily opened his eyes. Where am I? What is this place? Why am I not dead? Tianlong had a lot of doubts and many questions in his mind, but the most prominent one was, what the hell is this black thing in my soul? Wait. I can sense my soul. Tianlong was utterly confused and even a bit scared. The feeling over his glabella, it was undoubtedly a new sensation. The soul is in the glabella. This was rather a preconceived notion to him. Hence he automatically related this sensation to be his soul. His heart palpitated in reaction at this sudden discovery. Tianlong bit his lips as he whispered to himself in Chinese, "All right, calm down me. If I think calmly and carefully, perhaps, I will be able to make sense of this situation." He took a deep breath to calm himself down, but it wasn't enough. He had to empty his mind and take a few more breaths to calm down. Then once his expression became quite calm, he started connecting the dots one by one. The death book was destroyed in the spatial tunnel, and I witnessed the scene with my eyes. I am sure of it, so what is this black thing in my soul that looks like a book? Is this the death book? It looks similar. Tianlong heavily bit his lips but then stopped, realizing that it might harm the child, but then recognized that it was just himself. Feeling conflicted, he then continued to think. But if the death book followed me into this world, then it should have been able to kill me after exiting the spatial tunnel and gaining this body. If it didn't kill me, then I was right. The death book is probably restricted by the laws of this world. Tianlong felt elated. He had relied on luck, and this basis of entering another world should either destroy or reset the death book. Pub Future adds. He had not been able to kill or manipulate animals with the death book, so it was within logic to think that the death book worked on some kind of principle, some kind of law within the set world. He was also prepared for the death book to not work in this world. Hence, he rather felt disbelief at its presence in his soul. This world probably needs time to detect the arrival of an unknown object, so the death book was able to fulfill the condition of me being able to obtain a weak body below 20 years old, but it wasn't able to kill me after the 5-minute time limit, meaning the death book should have either been intrinsically destroyed or reset according to the laws of this world. Then, if this black thing is the death book, how was it able to infuse into my soul? Is it because I am the current owner? Yup, this should be the case. It somewhat makes sense of the situation. Even though Tianlong had many doubts, he was somewhat able to make sense of this situation. Even though it could turn out as nonsense, he felt that he was not far from the truth. Tianlong got out of the bed, and just when he tried to walk, he fell. What? He tried to stand up, but he couldn't, so he crawled his way to the mirror at the corner of the room, using every ounce of strength that he could muster. How weak! He lamented but was able to understand since he was in a child's body. He asked for a weak body so he would be able to possess the body easily, but it seems like, for this child, he shouldn't have rather included that condition. He looked around 91 centimeters in height with fair skin, a pair of sapphire eyes that looks adorable, but his face seemed quite emaciated, sunken in along with his body. His short blonde hair was messy, and with a tiny frame that is normal for 3-year-old children, he looked not much different from a child who was not taken care of, an orphan. However, he looked clean without any dirt considering the circumstances he was in, probably taken care of by someone or the middle-aged person who looked after him and also seemed to be the child's father at first glance. But now, he felt that this child didn't resemble that person at all. A 2 or 3-year child. An orphan? I guess it's alright since I can perfectly blend into this environment. I don't know who you are, but sorry for possessing your body. I'm not going to make any excuses since I indirectly killed you. Tianlong didn't know that this child was in a coma from the time he was born and was going to die 3 days ago. He held complex feelings about killing an innocent child, but that didn't stop him from persisting to live his life. I swear that I will live your part as well. However, he felt ridiculous as a child became his first casualty in this world. After Gray left the room, he headed for the room where the captains stayed. Ads by Pub Future. Pub Future ads. Knock. Come in. A voice could be heard from inside the room, Creak. Gray opened the door and went inside, his footsteps creaking on the wooden plywood. Oh, Gray, what's the matter? Captain, it's time I left the mercenaries. There was a moment of silence in the room. Sigh, did the 2-year period come to an end already? Time sure flies fast. The captain reminisced as he sighed. Yes, I thank you for taking care of me in the mercenaries. The compensation will be given once the people from the Empire comes to pick me up. Taking care of you? Protecting a man with a cultivation base higher than mine? You must be jesting. Is it the child? The captain chuckled. You've already figured it out. Gray uttered, but he didn't look surprised. I have been together with you for almost 2 years, yes. If I can't even figure that out, I should just retire from being a mercenary. Gray blinked and said, good thing you told me this just now. If it were a month ago, I would have been forced to kill you. Is it an order? The captain wryly smiled. Yes. Gray inclined his head, replied as if it was a matter of fact. The lowered imperial family sure is scary, considering that it managed to survive and execute the noble families who participated in the rebellion. What? The lowered family has managed to quell the rebels. Yes, I just received this news 2 days ago. The captain nodded. Launching 2 BHK sports-themed homes at Hiranandani in Panvel. 3 BHK homes with wide sun decks at the arena, Hiranandani, Panvel. Spacious 4 BHK at Hiranandani Panvel from 3.01 cr. Gray stood, shivering from excitement. From this, both of us have survived. Gray heaved a sigh of relief as he calmed down. Then, I'll return to my quarters, Captain. All right. The captain sighed, once again at the thought of how he was going to lose his best and powerful subordinate. However, he knew that this was inevitable. Creak. Gray opened the door to his room and stepped in, but he almost got a heart attack. Where is the child? Gray instantly unsheathed his sword and quickly rushed inside in a panicked manner. Tianlong hurriedly turned back his head at the corner of the room and saw Gray rushing into the room. Ray Nolan, that's his name, hey. Seems like I still possess the Death God eyes, then that means that I still have the Death Book with me. With this, Tianlong confirmed that he still had the Death Book with him, but he felt that it was best to say that the Death Book is within him. Ray Nolan heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the child was safe, albeit trying to do something. Nai, yay, diddle. Tianlong immediately started putting on an act with a cute face. Considering that I was sleeping in a bed, this guy should have been the one taking care of me, and it's not far-fetched for a 3-year-old orphan to not know how to talk. Ray Nolan immediately walked towards the child and carried him up. Hey, will I get beheaded if they found out that the prince doesn't know how to talk? Ray Nolan got scared a little but then thought with clarity, probably not. Tianlong had no idea what this guy was mumbling about because he still couldn't understand any of it. The Death God eyes displayed a person's name and lifespan, except the latter, seemed to be displayed by a thread. Dude, please talk in a language I understand. Tianlong wished both sincerely and lamentably. Child, it's almost time for you to return to the Empire, and there you can officially start learning the language of the world. Ray Nolan started lecturing and teaching the child even though he knew that the child couldn't understand him because his life depended on it. The lecture continued for about 10 minutes, leaving Tianlong with a face full of black lines. Chapter 4, Returning to the Imperial Capital. After an hour. Outside the Blue Tiger mercenary headquarters. Oi! Look at the sky! A random person exclaimed. Where? A passerby stopped in his tracks and questioned. In the sky, a big silhouette could be seen above the clouds. It's a dragon. Another person exclaimed. The dragon's going to destroy the town, everyone run. That person who exclaimed first fled in fear upon seeing such a silhouette. Idiot, that's a wyvern. Another knowledgeable person commented after seeing the silhouette come down from above the clouds. The wyvern's wingspan stretched 12 meters long. It looked long-faced with a set of razor-sharp teeth in its mouth. Its tail thrashed around, creating gusts of wind that threw the people who were near off their footing. On its back was a middle-aged man dressed in shiny red armor. His face was valiant with vigor, and he exuded an aura that was capable of suppressing almost all of the people below him. Hence, none dared to shout at him. He scanned the area and spotted the Blue Tiger Mercenary sign on a building. He promptly headed towards that building. The wyvern then complied and landed in front of the Blue Tiger Mercenary headquarters. Captain of the Imperial Guards, Renard Nolan, orders the captain of the Blue Tiger Mercenaries to come out. That man then shouted out loud, which shocked many people because of the fact that the man on the wyvern belonged to the Imperial Guards. What is the captain of the Imperial Guard doing out here? Many people started whispering to others. It wasn't just a random Imperial Guard but the captain. If someone said there wasn't anything going on, then they wouldn't believe it even if they were tortured. The members of the Blue Tiger Mercenaries didn't dare to lash back at him. They could only wait in silence as they waited for their captain to show up. To their luck, the captain hurriedly came out of the building and swiftly bowed to the captain of the Imperial Guard, Renard Nolan. Noel of the Blue Tiger Mercenaries, at your service. Noel inwardly sweated. Such a powerful person had come directly to their mercenary group. He thought to himself, whoa, our empire sure is establishing their authority all over the land. They didn't even bother to give him any face. Pub Future ads. Actually, why would they? Noel mocked himself. Is great. Before Renard Nolan can finish his sentence, he saw a male figure exit the building with a child on his back. Renard Nolan glanced at Noel and uttered with a satisfied glint in his eyes, "Good, you will surely be rewarded with plentiful riches. It's been a long time, Ray." He smiled. Hearing the familiar and comforting voice, a smile crept upon Ray Nolan's face as well. "Yes, brother." Then the both of them bear-hugged casually and laughed heavily in an uproarious tone. "Is the Imperial Prince fine?" Renard Nolan's expression slightly turned anxious. "Yes, as you can see." Ray Nolan glanced at his back as he said. He then pursed his lips and inwardly cried as he thought back to the past 2 years. How am I supposed to say that the Imperial Prince was in a coma from the moment he was entrusted to me? Renard Nolan heaved a heavy sigh and nodded his head. "All right, let's leave this place then." "Please do, I'm sick of this lifestyle." Ray Nolan laughed loudly, not displaying his worry. He then turned his head back and saw those misfits he had been together in these 2 years. "If you encounter any trouble, head to the Nolan family and mention my name, Ray Nolan." Ray Nolan smiled as he bid farewell. "See you later, Noel." Noel just stood there dumbfounded by this revelation. He thought to himself, all of them are big guys, and these two are from the Nolan noble family. I've struck it rich. When both of the brothers got on the wyvern, Noel shouted, "Don't forget your words, Gray." "No, Ray. I won't." Ray Nolan smirked. He had an amicable relationship with Noel other than the fact that he was rather protective of his nephew Mel, but that was to be expected. He was still willing to treat him with respect. The wyvern then flew to the skies heading towards the imperial capital. 6 hours later. A huge wall could be seen in the distance. The walls were over 60 meters tall. Ads by Pub Future. Pub Future ads. Finally, we reached the imperial capital with the help of this speedy wyvern. Ray Nolan spoke joyfully. The two had a lot to talk about, so they chatted the whole way, disregarding Tian Long. Meanwhile, Tian Long couldn't understand what they were saying, so he just gave up and enjoyed his first flight on the wyvern. It was so fast, and the wind that slightly brushed past his face rather gave him a sense of exhilaration he hadn't experienced in a long while. Perhaps, he even felt that the life-threatening spatial travel couldn't compare. The air resistance he experienced would have rather thrown him off the wyvern, but the two who were in front of him casually disregarded the air resistance and passively helped him defend it from erecting a barrier. The air is so fresh in this world. The sceneries are so beautiful. Am I on vacation already? Tianlong felt that his choice to come to this world was the best one he had ever made. Luckily, his fate, which was usually terrible, didn't let him down this time, or that was at least how he felt. He didn't know where he was headed to, nor did he know if he would be safe in the future, but since they treated him with care, he thought he would be safe with the two of them. It's not like he could change his future right now, or do anything of significance in this wilderness below him, so he just went with the flow and didn't care to ponder a lot. The wyvern swiftly passed above the walls without any obstructions and headed to the imperial castle. It then landed below the main entrance of the imperial castle. Numerous guards held their spears and grasped it tightly as they would always. They didn't even blink when the wyvern landed in front of them, but they more or less displayed awe and respect within their eyes. At the same time, they were confused as to who that emaciated, poor child was. The trio then entered the imperial castle without any impediments, as if they were the masters of this imperial castle. Tianlong could see the grandness of this place, and even without someone making him understand, he felt that he had arrived in some kind of royalty's residence. He also realized that he slightly had his mouth agape and closed it. Feeling rather embarrassed, he thought, is the child's young body influencing my emotions to a degree? In this short time of experiencing and witnessing many things after coming to his world, he felt that rather have a hard time controlling his emotions, and the upheavals he felt wasn't anything small. This made his suspect that the child's developing body might be influencing his already established calm emotions. However, this was a new world, and it could also be possible that the inhibitions he had on his mind in the modern world had all disappeared. They arrived in front of the throne hall in a short time. Just as they were going to request the audience of the emperor, the door opened, and a young woman with an extraordinary bearing came out with a worried expression on her face. Tianlong was shocked when he saw this kingdom-toppling beauty with luxurious and elegant bearings. Her 170 centimeters tall figure captivated his eyes. Her skin fair, with almond royal purple eyes like 2 drops of wine, illuminated her eyes. Her wavy, waist-length blonde hair made her look gorgeous like an angel. Her face displayed a warm and graceful demeanor like a caring mother. Even then, she possessed a perfectly refined body with curves at the right places, making her look a little mature. Launching 2 BHK sports-themed homes at Hiranandani in Panvel. Spacious 4 BHK at Hiranandani Panvel from 3.01 cr. 3 BHK homes with wide sun decks at the arena, Hiranandani, Panvel. The young woman looked toward the child who was in the middle, clasped hands with both the brothers. Her eyes widened in shock. Her lips slightly went agape as she slowly started running towards the child, and hurriedly hugged him with all her affection. "You're safe. You're safe, thank goodness. I'm sorry that mother wasn't able to be with you all this time." The young woman started shedding tears of joy as she intensely shivered. Tianlong became dumbfounded as he felt being hugged by this woman. Even though he couldn't understand what she was saying, he could feel the warmth from the hug, which he never got to experience in his previous life. Is this woman the mother of this child? A thought encroached his mind. Hearing the ravings from the mother of this child, he was again invaded by complex feelings of guilt and sadness. He didn't know why, but he almost couldn't hold his tears from falling. He bit his lips and mused, is this also because of the child's developing body? A young man, whose expression was full of joy for a fleeting moment, can be seen behind the young woman who was currently hugging Tianlong. He appeared to be 180 centimeters tall, his skin fair with royal sapphire eyes that radiated a regal aura. His wavy, waist-length black hair was lush as ink. His chin met with a short beard, and his shoulders were broad with some muscles, making him look quite manly and handsome. In short, he had a medium build, and his face looked remarkably attractive to women. "Finally, my son has returned safely. that young man uttered in a deep tone, displaying his grandeur. He produced a serious expression on his face, but the sapphire pupils appeared moist. The two brothers immediately got down on their knees. "We pay our respects to the Emperor and the Empress," they shouted in unison. "Good, stand up, follow me to the throne." The young man nodded and chose not to interfere with the mother and son reunion. Instead, he walked towards the throne and sat down. All of those who were in the throne hall bowed as they clasped hands to show respect to the emperor. Many of them held positions in the imperial court, administrating the empire's regions. "Lift your heads. Ray Nolan, you've done a great task of protecting my son in the time of chaos. This emperor will bestow you with the title of Duke, a mid-level Earth-rank city around the inner region, and 100 purple coins." "It's my honor, your majesty." Ray Nolan obediently replied, but the reward he received rather made him feel that all his hardships were worth it. Especially the mid-level Earth-rank city. "Renard Nolan, you did a great job of escorting them back safely." "It's a given, your majesty." Renard replied with his head still inclined below, displaying his reverence and obedience. At this time, the Empress walked into the throne hall carrying her child on her arms. Observing the Empress, the Emperor nodded his head and cast a glance at his grown but emaciated child. He furrowed his brows and asked, "Ray Nolan, explain the events that took place when you were protecting my son." "Yes, your majesty." Ray Nolan nodded and explained the events that took place during his secret mission without hiding anything. After approximately 20 minutes of explanation. "And that's all, your majesty." Ray Nolan concluded his report. "So, you are saying that my son just woke up 3 days ago?" Hearing the question from the emperor that was filled with suspicion and coldness, beads of sweat started to form on Ray Nolan's face as he gulped. Chapter 5, Banquet. This, I swear on my noble name that what I've said is the truth, your majesty." Ray Nolan declared in a fearful tone. There were a few moments of deathly silence in the throne hall, making the people inside feel fidgety and nervous. The emperor abruptly tapped the armrest of the throne in a rhythm, making the ones who heard further gulp in suspense and anticipation. "This matter concerns the well-being of my son. You won't blame me if I conduct investigations, right?" the emperor inquired in a rather stern tone. "I wouldn't dare. It is only your right to check the health and environment your son lived in, your majesty." Ray Nolan tactfully said, and not at all was bothered by the suspicions cast on him. The royal prince was indeed in a coma all the time but woke up just a few days before he sent them the signal to be picked up in 3 years' time. If he were the child's father, he felt that perhaps even he wouldn't believe his own words. "Good, you're pardoned." Ray Nolan let out a sigh of relief when he was released from this not-so-offensive pressure. The emperor pondered for a moment before commanding, "Tonight, arrange a banquet, we're celebrating the return of my son, the crown prince of the Lowrit Empire." "Yes, your majesty," the people shouted in unison. The emperor and empress left the throne hall and made their way to a room in the emperor's quarters, which was none other than their room. They too were the only ones in the room. "Logan, I don't mind if the investigation is conducted or not, since it is advantageous to us that any strange or evil characters didn't influence our son," the empress said as she kept looking at her child, who was none other than Tian Long. She was fine as long as her son was well and healthy. However, the way he currently looked rather made her heart feel distressed. Pub future ads. "Yes, but there are a lot of questions that are left unanswered, such as how our son, who was in fatal danger 3 days ago, managed to recover healthily. Is it a miracle? Or did an unknown expert decided to save our son with unknown motives? Humph, if it was an unknown expert with good intentions, I'll be surely thankful to him even in death. On the other hand, you sent our son to an unknown place that I don't even know about, and you won't even tell me about it." The empress coldly harumphed. "Claire, I had no other choice but to do that. It is for the absolute safety of our son. Even I didn't know where I sent him, not until that messenger pigeon arrived from Ray Nolan. Logan told the truth. What? Claire received a shock and looked at Logan with an incredulous expression on her face. All this time, you were saying that you knew where you sent our son and that he is safe. Suddenly, she felt as if she understood everything. You did this all to just assure me. Claire's mouth became agape. Tears were welling up within her eyes. Yes, my love. Logan cupped her face gently and slightly caressed. They looked into each other's eyes, and their lips connected, slowly engaging in a passionate kiss. Half a minute passed in silence, yet to Tianlong, it was nothing but a trial. Gar, Sae, Nien. Tianlong couldn't stand it anymore. After all, he was still a virgin, and seeing a couple engage in such passion in such close range left him rather traumatized. Both of them were startled as they looked at their son and burst laughing, relief flooding their minds. After laughing till they were content, they hugged each other. I'm sorry. Claire whispered in a soft and embarrassed tone. It's fine. I know how much you suffered during this period. Logan comforted her as he caressed her blonde hair. But I was stupid, heartless, all this time I ignored you. I know I was doing wrong, you didn't even look at other women, but I stopped paying heed to you. Ads by Pub Future. Pub Future ads. Tears started cascading her cheeks as it fell onto her luxurious robes. It's my fault. Any mother would be angry if her child were to be taken away from her. Logan hurriedly placated her. Claire felt guilty because she blamed everything that happened to her and her son on Logan and ignored him for almost 3 years. After a few minutes of warmth, both of them then distanced from each other awkwardly. It was them reacting to their reaction of the lower part of their bodies and their son's gaze. Haha. Logan awkwardly laughed. Claire's face was red as she smiled embarrassingly, enchanting him as if she wore a bewitching smile. Logan was in a trance seeing her beautiful blushed face. He would have already jumped on her if it weren't for the child that curiously kept gazing at them. It was more like he had been intently staring at them. I feel sorry, but I won't let you guys do anything in front of me, can you guys please do it somewhere else? Tianlong wished so because didn't have any strange fetishes. Cough cough. Our child must be educated in the ways of imperial mannerisms. I'll arrange it now. Logan coughed and took another approach. No. I'll be the one to teach our child. Claire hurriedly shouted. Hey? N. Claire narrowed her eyes, I won't take no for an answer. 3 years. I wasn't with my child for 3 years. We missed the bonding period. I'm not sure if the child will wholeheartedly even accept us as his parents. Therefore, I will be with him until he finishes his education. Logan was dumbfounded. He realized that he had fallen to his machinations. His expression was something quite profound to behold. He buried himself with his plan and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Claire and Logan readied Tianlong with a royal outfit. They didn't require the help of servants because this was the first time they were dressing Tianlong, their son. Lavish 3 BHK homes with wide sun decks from 1.77 cr. Spacious 4 BHK at Hiranandani Panvel from 3.01 cr. Thinking about IVF? Ask our specialists in a free consultation. Tianlong felt embarrassed when Claire removed his pants, but he realized that he was still a child. It made him even more ashamed about having dirty thoughts. He then kept reminding himself that she is his mother, which he still hasn't come to terms with yet. Logan laughed when he saw him resisting a little, obviously misunderstanding with something else. However, he also felt a little doubtful as to why a child who knew nothing would feel shame in the first place, but he didn't give it too much thought. Tianlong had complex feelings about being taken care of by a mother figure, which he never experienced in his previous life. He felt warm and cozy somehow, and he even secretly liked it. In any case, with a body that hadn't much nutrition, he rather felt that he could do nothing at this point, like pushing them away. Neither did he do something stupid so as to make them realize that he was not their son and someone else. They then picked him up and went to the banquet hall. Your subordinates greets your majesty. When the people saw the emperor advancing into the banquet hall, they stood up, bowed, and shouted in unison. At ease, my subjects. Logan acknowledged in a firm tone. Everyone then took their seats. This banquet is to celebrate the return of my son and the continuation of our prosperous empire. Glory to the Loret Empire. Logan lifted his drink and drank, commemorating the start of the banquet himself. Glory to the Loret Empire. The subjects also drank their cups. Everyone enjoyed the banquet in high spirits. The spirit drinks and cooked meats were delicious, and the castle maids who were dressed up in classical robes were rather a sight to see as they danced. After some time, the banquet was about to end. Your Majesty, isn't this the best time for that? The royal advisor, Hendrickson, commented. I guess it is. Logan superficially muttered and announced, Everyone, it is time for the main event of this banquet. The people in the banquet went silent as the banter calmed down. Logan looked at Claire, who was seated by his side. Both of them nodded together. I, the Emperor of Loret Empire, Logan Loret, hereby declare that the name of the first prince, my son, to be, Davis Loret. Ah! Glory to the Empire, long live Davis Loret! An official suddenly exclaimed. Everyone looked at Tianlong and started chanting his name loudly, which made the banquet end in high spirits. Today was also his third birthday. From that moment, even without understanding the language, Tianlong knew that he had been given a new name, Davis Loret. Chapter 6, Acceptance. The next day, daylight rose, illuminating the Loret Empire's imperial capital. Tianlong had been extremely tired yesterday, so he slept in the room that was assigned to him, and after making sure he slept, she stayed with him for a few hours, looking at his face before she finally left him. After waking up, Tianlong could guess where she went and was cheering about it since he inwardly started shipping them from yesterday. In any case, with their robes adorning them and the throne in the throne hall, it didn't take him much to learn that they should be the king and perhaps the queen, or the greater counterpart, the emperor and the empress. The door suddenly opened, and he could see a middle-aged woman dressed in imperial maid clothes enter the room. She bowed with a respectful stance for a second and walked to him. Excuse me, Your Highness. As if giving a word of caution, she belatedly grasped his hand and brought him to the bath, undressed him, and cleaned him. Tianlong was stiff the whole time. He didn't even glance at the middle-aged woman maid for a long time since her curves were rather wet and visible through her clothes. He looked at her face and saw that she was in beauty in her own right. Such a person happens to be a maid. Tianlong imagined by the way she dressed similarly to the other women in this place, except it was somewhat more different, perhaps, grander. After he was cleaned and dressed up, he felt rather refreshed, way more than what he would feel by experiencing a normal bath. In short, his senses became somewhat normal, and the muddle-headed feeling totally left his mind. Was the bathtub filled with something rejuvenating? I remember it smelled strange. Tianlong imagined. The middle-aged imperial maid grasped his hands and made their way to the study. In the study, Claire stood up and eagerly waited for her son to show up. Due to certain matters, she had rather failed to bath her son by herself. So she took a bath and freshened up before coming here. Creak. The door opened, and the maid let go of Tianlong. From inside, he saw the person whom he recognized to be his mother. She smiled genuinely and widened her arms when she saw him. Davis Loret, come to mother. Tianlong was astonished to see her act cute like this. This person is supposed to be the queen or the empress, isn't she? He quickly hid his bewilderment and kept his appearance as a 3-year-old child. He rather watched her curiously, not responding to her invitation. Claire then repeated what she said with another gesture. Tianlong then carefully and slowly approached like how a baby learned to walk for the first time. He was not acting, but it was really hard to move his body that hadn't moved from birth. He didn't know that but chalked it up as his soul synchronizing with this child's body. Claire was with wide arms, ready to give a hug. Tianlong made his way to her and got enclosed by that warm feeling again. She hugged him tightly and wished that he will never disappear from her side again. Creak. The door was closed, and the imperial maid left the study. Prepare to swoon, 9 steamiest The Vampire Diaries scenes. Her beauty. Ads by Pub Future. A minute passed, yet they stayed like that. Tianlong rather felt somewhat different, yet not at all constricted. A feeling of wanting to cry welled up within him, completely making him understand that this child's developing body was somehow influencing him, his emotions. Perhaps, I fused with this child's soul, no. Tianlong gulped as he rather had an eerie thought. Davis, your mother will take care of you and guide you from now on in almost everything. Let's start from the basics, shall we? Claire widened her lips slightly and smiled like an angel. Tianlong blinked as he suddenly felt that she had the sweetest smile in the world, so bright yet calm. She grasped his hand and made him sit on a chair. Then, as if without a care in the world, she started teaching him the language of the world. A week had now passed, and Tianlong was already able to run and play. There were so many delicacies within this place, and he ate all which he was fed, and he felt rejuvenated with each bite. The quality of the food alone was enough to make him look no longer like a starved child but a healthy child. He was even fed a little bit of meat, which he found to be incredibly delicious than almost every dish he had on earth. Other than this, his progress in the language of this world was smooth. He could now understand simple conversations. The imperial maids will deliver him food thrice a day, and a bed had been set up in the study. In fact, he was the one who requested his mother to do so. Knowledge is the foremost power he could have in this world. In any case, with his current developing body, becoming strong like the others he saw in this imperial castle became impossible, hence, absorbing knowledge became his priority. As a person who was closely related to the term transmigration and possession, he wasn't willing to waste his time. Tianlong realized that he was absorbing knowledge unusually fast, being able to remember it clearer than in the past, but he chalked it up as his soul is powerful. His guess was accurate this time, though he didn't realize it. The transmigration stone strengthened his soul. In fact, it was its primary effect, but the people of Earth didn't found the way to achieve soul strengthening. Tianlong started to like this new mother of his significantly. She cared for him rather extremely and played with him whenever he completed his assignment. He enjoyed playing with her, and maybe it was because of the small body, but he felt like a child when he was with her. He was also aware that his emotions had largely experienced a change, and his thoughts were also being influenced. Due to this, he had particularly tried finding anything wrong with his soul as best as he could but failed to find any abnormalities other than the anomaly, the black book in his soul. Davis, finish this assignment, and then we can play a game I've prepared. Yes, Mother. Davis cheerfully replied, continuing to act like a child. Not only did she play with him every once in a while, but she also showered him with wonderful motherly love. He didn't know what had happened to her in the past, but he could tell she was currently giving her everything for him. To reciprocate her kindness and also to become a knowledgeable person, he didn't slack on these assignments. This is going smoother than we expected. My son can quickly learn anything I teach. He is definitely a genius. Claire smiled proudly as she felt that she was able to measure Tianlong's talent approximately. Ads by Pub Future. Pub Future ads. Another week had passed, except it felt increasingly slow to Tianlong. He had somehow started to grow fond of his mother. He was now able to talk, read, and write fluently. His knowledge of the language progressively increased at a rapid pace with his hard work, but somewhere in his heart, he started having guilty feelings of being this close with the dead Davis's mother. Sometimes, he could even feel his inner self whispering to him, "You killed her son, why are you laughing together with her? Is it fun? Playing with the mother of the child you killed? You think she is your mother? No. You just possess her son's body. Stop it. Davis. Claire had a worried expression on her face. Tianlong snapped out it and remembered what had happened. His mother had just joked about how she would have felt if he had died out there. Are you fine? Claire worriedly asked. Tianlong evaded her gaze and answered. Yes, it's nothing. Claire blinked once as she felt that her son became somewhat different. Another week further passed. Tianlong gradually started distancing himself from Claire. He wouldn't sometimes play after finishing his assignments. He just solely finished her assignments and increased his knowledge of the language. Claire grew increasingly worried about her son not being that much responsive anymore. What's wrong? Why did he start distancing himself from me? Did I do something wrong? It can't be because of how I joked about him dying, could it? Claire thought that she had done something wrong. Later she felt that he would eventually be his old self again as time passed. The fourth week. A lot of events transpired, yet Tianlong forgot how to face his mother with a normal expression on his face. He became irrational and even started blaming himself when he saw Claire being overly worried. On the one hand, he felt that he didn't deserve this kind, a heartwarming mother for the wrong he had done to her child, and on the other hand, he felt that he should make his mother happy. These conflicting emotions had his heart tearing apart from the inside. It also made him confused as to how to face her in the future. These were all new emotions to him as he didn't have a father or a mother figure in the past as he was an orphan. See Sydney Sweeney glow after a color reset. Knockouts in every way, top 10 gorgeous Muay Thai stars. These 9 Vampire Diaries scenes turned up the heat. In the study. Davis. A voice full of longing echoed in Tianlong's ears. Mother. Tianlong glanced at Claire for a second before evading her gaze for the nth time. Just the sight of her pure and clear purple eyes rather left him feeling burdened. He even thought of escaping this place, but every time he shortly left the study, he could see the Imperial Guards rather heavily guarded every pathway and hallway. Look at me, Davis. Claire pleaded with a troubled expression on her face. Tianlong slowly turned to look back at her. Did Mother do something wrong? Why aren't you speaking to Mother anymore? Claire bit her lips as her eyes turned moist. Tianlong remained silent. Is the place not good? Did I treat you wrongly? Is it because I joked about your death? Tianlong felt suddenly unbearable as he heard her tone of voice. He felt his heart constrict with pain on hearing what his mother said. Claire still didn't know why her son was avoiding her. This had caused her much more pain than the time he disappeared. Looking at him be in front of her, yet behave as he did not exist left her feeling anxious and distressed. Tianlong remained silent like a child ridden with guilt. How could he not feel guilt? Even though it may not be direct but indirect, he still killed her son, and that was something he would not make an excuse for or even ignore it. He swore that he would live the life of his part as well, but he didn't rather expect this scenario at all. Looking at his face, Claire took a deep breath. After I lost you, I thought I would never see you again. I had no wish in this world other than for you to return safely. Every day without you was torture to me. I thought I had lost you forever, but you returned. My child returned to me, studied with me, played with me, and so why? Claire sobbed, why are you not speaking to Mother anymore? Tianlong was overwhelmed with guilt after hearing that, making his pupils tremble. Claire suddenly hugged her son, forcibly. Tianlong tried to distance himself from her, but it was no use. His meager strength didn't even make him capable of budging. Davis. Don't go. Please talk to Mother. I want my Davis back. Please give my Davis back. Claire cried as tears cascaded down her cheeks while her arms were hugging him with all her emotions. I can't take it anymore. It was as if Tianlong experienced a severe blow when he was hit with all these sensations. Mother! He felt his heart ache and clenched his fists. Fuck! I won't run from this anymore. He instantly hugged her with his fragile arms and declared with a hoarse voice, Your Davis is here, Mother. Your Davis didn't go anywhere. I am still here. At that moment, Tianlong accepted his whole new identity, Davis Lowrat, with all his heart. Suddenly, resplendent light shone and started swirling around Davis's glabella while his soul started shaping itself into a spherical form. Claire noticed it as her eyes widened, displayed shock. She couldn't believe her own eyes as she looked at his face that was met with confusion. Davis, you achieved nascent soul stage. She dumbfoundedly muttered. Chapter 7, A Surprise. After a few minutes of pause, Davis opened his eyes. He couldn't fathom what had happened just now, but he could certainly feel the change intrinsically. It was as if his soul started growing and attained a shape all of a sudden. He could also tell that he could recall his past memories as vividly as if he was currently experiencing it. This made him quite stunned. Claire wiped off Davis's tears and smiled proudly. You've made Mom proud, Davis. Wait! I cried. Davis couldn't understand what exactly took place in his soul just now but decided to ask since he felt compelled to know. Mo. Mother, what happened to me just now? Davis, you just advanced to the nascent soul stage. Claire exclaimed jubilantly. Her tone contained an enormous amount of disbelief, but at the same time, she sounded immensely gratified. Nascent soul stage? What is that? Davis had some idea about it since he heard of it while studying but decided to ask anyway. Claire giggled, silly, for this, you need to know about the cultivation system. Let me explain it to you slowly. Davis got excited to learn about it. He had seen magical beasts like that wyvern and other magical beasts and even people flying outside the imperial castle. It would be a lie if he said that he wasn't interested in it. There are 3 types of cultivation systems. Claire started to explain. First, essence gathering cultivation. Second, body tempering cultivation, and third, soul forging cultivation. Claire grinned and pointed over his forehead. What you achieved just now is the first stage of soul forging cultivation, nascent soul stage. What you've done is a quite unbelievable feat, Davis. Usually, only people who had reached the 3rd stage of essence gathering cultivation system, revolving core stage, will be able to advance in their soul forging cultivation because a human soul is rather weak. You can't sense it, not until you reach the revolving core stage. Davis felt the difficulty of achieving this feat in his age with her words, but considering his real age, or perhaps his soul age, he felt that it should be set in stone for him. But even if it were 100-year-old mortal, that mortal wouldn't still be able to sense their soul. Davis could guess this fact, but he had failed to consider it. In fact, Davis was only able to reach the nascent soul stage because of 2 conditions, his powerful soul due to the transmigration stone's strengthening effect and the fact that he had managed to conquer his heart demon that he currently had no idea about. Davis took a moment to understand what she said. Davis! Claire called out to her son with a solemn expression. He woke out of his trance. Did you awaken your previous life's memories? Boom! Davis looked like a cat that had its tail stepped on. He immediately took a step back as it has been totally unexpected for him, or should he say that he had rather failed to consider while taking in all this new knowledge and let his guard down. Claire immediately embraced him again, not letting him go. Pub Future ads. It's fine, Davis, you don't have to say anything, you're still my son. This doesn't change anything. She hurriedly comforted him. Mother, I'm sorry. Davis started to cry as tears fell over his cheeks. He can only let her misunderstand the situation. There was no use lying since the suspicion was already cast on him, and he had slipped up. Seeing that Davis was crying, Claire smiled, she was reassured that it was still her son and not some old demon from ancient times. With how pure his emotions were, she felt that it could not be faked, at least, not easily faked. They stayed like that for the time being. Perhaps, both were feeling insecure. After a few moments of mother-son bonding, Davis decided wholeheartedly to be her son, both in body and soul, as it didn't sit well with him to cheat a pure soul. At least, he felt that's the least he could do for the dead Davis. Davis, let's call your father here and explain ourselves to him, shall we? Claire included herself in Davis's situation. But if he wanted to hide this fact to his last breath, she wanted to respect his privacy. Mother, is it fine? Won't father get angry? Davis had his misgivings. If more people knew about this fact, then his life could be in danger. Davis's father, Logan, had visited him a few times to play with him, albeit stricter, because he wanted his son to be headstrong while facing hardships. Davis rather felt that his father had many burdens on his shoulders, so they weren't able to bond to the level of what he and Claire reached. Your father will get angry only if you don't tell him. If you come out with it, he will start believing and trust you to a certain extent. In truth, he is an easygoing person and not stern at all. If you don't tell him, he may entirely distrust you because you simply have no way to hide your cultivation for now. Claire explained with the best intentions in her mind. She also believed that Logan would trust her words and not harm Davis. I'll obey mother then. Davis spoke sadly with an adorable expression on his face. He believed that even if the situation goes south, perhaps, his mother would protect him. The way he saw it, though the emperor seemed to be the person with the greatest status, he treated the figurehead empress, his mother, as his equal, and was also in head over heels for her. Lovely. Claire pinched his face as if she couldn't get enough of that cute expression. Claire then contacted her husband through a fist-sized crystal, telling him that she wants to see him immediately. Mother, what is that? This is a transmission crystal. This is used to contact whoever owns the other half. There are many types of crystals. I'll explain them later to you. Hearing her explanation, Davis nodded his head. A few seconds later, Logan opened the door to the study and closed it. He possessed a stern expression on his face. However, his expression suddenly became jovial. Ha ha ha, what is it, my love? What is so important that you made me hurry here alone? Logan then noticed his son's peculiar gaze and then turned shocked, nascent soul stage. He couldn't believe his senses. Ads by Pub Future. Pub Future ads. Davis and Claire looked at each other and nodded their heads. Logan promptly noticed the solemn atmosphere in the room. Logan, Davis, and I have something important to tell you, Claire informed with a calm expression on her face. You and Davis? Let me hear it then. Logan then set up a barrier made up of his soul force, knowing that it's important. Soul force was none other than the type of energy born from the essence of the soul. The further a person increased his soul forging cultivation, the further that person's soul force would improve and be enhanced, becoming stronger. Claire then explained the series of events that happened a few minutes ago. So, you are saying that our son has gained his previous life's memories? Logan possessed a strange expression on his face. Basically, yes. Claire had a helpless expression. There was a moment of silence, albeit heavily awkward. Logan took a deep breath. He then looked at Davis, but his gaze wasn't one of looking at a son anymore. He released a heavy pressure that stemmed from his soul. Davis trembled. His father's gaze was sharp, and the sudden pressure engulfed him heavily. He felt as if his soul in his glabella was suppressed, making him unable to even move his finger. Logan. Claire defended her child as she stepped forward. Stay quiet. I only want to question him for now. Logan's expression wasn't as stable as he waved his arm. It startled Claire to a great degree. Who are you? Logan questioned in a solemn tone. Davis. Davis replied without much change to his expression. He had expected this, after all. He felt that even he would do the same, confirming whatever he doubted with his own methods. Lies. What are you after? Father, I'm not after anything. Davis had tears forming in his eyes inadvertently. He was not after anything, and his undeveloped body had rather failed to keep his emotions in check after getting berated and accused falsely by the one he recognized as the father. Don't call me father. Logan rather had a heavy expression on his face. Father, please. Davis muttered. He didn't want to create any kind of estrangement between the three of them. He had an aggrieved expression on his face. He felt as if he couldn't take this anymore. Logan! You've gone too far! Claire shouted with an angry expression on her face. Logan sighed as he took back his pressure and retracted his gaze. He looked at him again. His gaze was back to like what one would look at a son. Spacious 4 BHK at Hiranandani Panvel from 3.01 cr. 2 BHK homes with wide sun decks at the arena, Hiranandani, Panvel. SBI Aurum card, apply now. At least tell me if you were a mortal or a higher existence such as a cultivator or even higher. I'm a mortal. After a moment of silence, Davis chose to reply without averting his gaze. His gaze shone pure with no evil intentions. Logan could feel Davis's soul fluctuations along with the feeling behind his words. If he lied, then he would know about it. There were no unusual fluctuations in his soul, so he could at least verify in a sense that his son wasn't lying. Perhaps, only seasoned liars would be able to control their soul fluctuation, but he wanted to not see his son as one of them. Logan heaved a sigh of relief. He carried Davis into his arms and whispered, "I'm sorry. I could only do this for the safety of our family." Davis nodded his head, not taking it to heart. He knew that his father took action based on family security and must be very worried about his son. He knew that his father's past was extremely complicated and even heavy, to say the least. Claire walked towards them as she felt heartened. The family then hugged each other, perhaps, not feeling well about their insecurities. Their hug was heartwarming, and it was the best comfort they felt that they could experience now. "Husband, you took your prank too far." Claire teased Logan as she tried to lessen the heavy and awkward atmosphere. "I know, I'm sorry." Logan chose to end the embarrassing yet important topic right then and there. There were just too many myths in this world for him to ignore his son's abnormality. As far as he knew, no one had managed to break through into the nascent soul stage when they were just 3 years old, and that too, without even breaking into the revolving core stage. He felt that his son was an absolute anomaly in this world. Hence, he wanted to absolutely make sure that his son, who seemed to regain his previous life's memories, wasn't a threat. Honestly, he didn't know how to face his son anymore. He even felt awkward lifting up his son, feeling that his son could have once been an old man. But when he looked at his son's face and eyes, which awfully resembled him and had his mother's blonde hair, there was no doubt in his eyes that Davis was his son, their son. Besides, he had already confirmed it in the bloodline chamber after his son's return. Davis suddenly laughed a bit, causing them to laugh along with a sense of not knowing what's going to happen anymore. Ha ha ha. The three of them laughed together like they were an ordinary family, but their laughs did indeed soothe their current awkward situation. Davis felt quite embarrassed to shed tears at the same time, but presumed it was because of the child's undeveloped body. It would make sense since he hadn't fully mastered the child's emotional reactions. "When was the last time I cried when I was on Earth? 10 years ago? 15 years ago?" he mused. Although he felt guilty of not telling the truth, he perceived that he had killed their son. He was happy as long as they think there is another Davis inside their son. This would help him remove the guilty feelings that he had for hiding this matter entirely. Though they misunderstood his situation, it was similar to what they understood other than the part where they do not know that he had accidentally killed or taken over their child. In actuality, he wanted to maintain this status quo. Claire suddenly had a change of expression over her face as if she couldn't hold it in any more. She hurriedly went to the restroom as she hit her mouth with her palm. Mother! Claire! Both of them shouted in worry. Sounds of vomiting could be heard from inside the bathroom, and after some time, Claire came out with a shy expression on her face. Looks like I'm pregnant. Chapter 8, Longing. Good. Logan widened his eyes in glee. He was trembling in excitement after being stunned for a moment. Ah, does this mean I'll be getting a brother or sister? Davis never had any siblings in his life on Earth, at least to his knowledge. He was an orphan. He was dumbfounded and conflicted but, at the same time, delighted when he heard it. Claire knew that she was conceived the moment she slept with Logan after a long time, but she hid it from him since she wanted it to keep it a secret, as a surprise. She didn't know if her new baby is a boy or a girl, but with her senses, she will be able to tell within a few weeks, but she wouldn't let anyone reveal that surprise or reveal it by herself till the time of delivery. This was one of the joys in the pregnancy she wanted to experience, a feeling that is only unique to her and other women. She approached them while coming out of the restroom, yet suddenly, she collapsed. Mother! Whoosh! Claire! Logan moved rather quickly and held her from falling to the ground. Davis wasn't even able to see how his father moved. It was as if he disappeared and appeared beside his mother. He felt a bit shocked by his father's prowess. His title as the Emperor isn't just for show. He mused. I'm fine. I just feel dizzy. Claire explained as she creased her blonde brows. Enough, you need some rest, Claire. Logan's eyes had ounces of care, but his expression and tone were rather stern. He turned to look at his son and uttered, Davis, your mother needs some rest. I understand, Davis spoke rather quickly and nodded his head. Women became quite weak when they got pregnant, even if they possessed powerful cultivation. It was a widely known fact, but Davis didn't know about it. Since this was the first sign of pregnancy, Claire felt quite weak and exhausted at the same time. The castle mates had no way of knowing or predicting since Claire was with Davis most of the time and only left at night to meet with Logan after Davis slept. No need to worry, Davis. Mother will soon come back to you. Claire comforted him. It was as if her love for him was boundless, regardless if he had gained his previous memories or not. I'll be waiting, Mother. Davis nodded again. Pub future ads. Davis then watched them leave the study. He watched their backs as they disappeared from his sight and left him alone. Davis, vaguely yet softly laughed, ha. 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 I gained rather some loving parents in this world, and on top of that, I am going to get a younger sibling too. It's something I can't get even if I wished for. I can only hope that I won't do anything stupid to disrupt this loving family. Davis sighed as he thought about the future. What's this? Suddenly, Davis felt that he could now faintly access that black book that delved in his soul. He had no way of nudging it in the past, which rather left him helpless, but now. Was it due to him entering the so-called nascent soul stage? Should I try using it? Davis felt tempted, but he held himself back. No, I shouldn't do anything suspicious while being still in the Imperial Castle. Father did set up some kind of barrier here, so perhaps, he or other people might be able to monitor this place. What Davis didn't know was that the study already had a barrier, a defensive formation set up normally to defend against attacks. It's just that Logan had set up a stronger barrier than that, useful for concealing sound and undulations of a person's cultivation. Other than that, Davis didn't know that there were always hidden experts protecting him in secret. In the quarters of the Empress's room. Logan made Claire rest in her bed. He looked at her with a gentle gleam in his eyes. Claire looked back at him with love and tenderness. These two had gone through life and death situations together when they met, fought, loved each other under different circumstances, and lastly, before the rebellion, they united. Their story was perhaps the most transcendental one in this world since they were far apart. During the rebellion, even though Claire had ignored Logan for 3 years due to the blame she cast on him that he had lost Davis, he didn't fancy any woman other than her. He was totally smitten and deeply in love with her. With his status as the emperor, if he so wished, he could have had hundreds of concubines. But he chose not to do so, even going as far as to publicly announce that anyone who tries to coerce him into marrying another woman would be dealt with severely, and there were truly such cases as well. Claire happened to see it with her own eyes. "Logan, Davis is our son," Claire suddenly uttered as a worried expression appeared on her face. "I know." Logan deeply sighed. "No matter what, possessing his previous life's memories or not, he is still our son. I won't do anything to him." Claire became confused. "Then why did you? What if he was an evil person in his previous life?" Logan moved the corner of his lips into a helpless expression. Ads by Pub Future. Pub Future ads. "He's not, and there's no way my son will be evil even in his previous life," Claire responded with a stubborn gaze. "That's why I wanted to make sure," Logan calmly explained. "The Lowrit family highly values peace and honor and wouldn't stoop far to do evil and despicable deeds. Lowrit Empire was the only empire in the Grand Sea continent which didn't wage war with other empires. Its adjacent empires were in a state of war, and that's why it didn't get attacked by other empires during its internal unrest. Although its peaceful times has caused certain backstabbers to rise in rebellion, it had remained as powerful as ever. But it had let its guard down. The cause of the rebellion was like more of an opportunity. The death of the previous emperor, Logan's imperial father, proved to be a timely opportunity to assassinate and massacre the entire imperial family. Except for Logan, almost all the members of the imperial family who were in the capital were assassinated. As for those who were outside, they, too, were monitored and hunted. That's why Logan took immediate measures to send away his only son, entrusting the task to Ray Nolan, the next head of a noble family who were in their camp. There were 8 noble families in the Lowrit Empire altogether. Only 2 noble families didn't take part in the rebellion, while the other remaining 6 noble families completely joined forces to eliminate the imperial family. The 2 noble families then joined the imperial family camp to help quell the rebellion. These 2 noble families were called the Nolan family and Calden family. Of course, at the end of the rebellion, the 6 noble families were either annihilated by the Lowrit Empire's army. Logan rallied or locked up in a rather special prison set up for complete execution after the higher ups of the 6 families were killed. Only the heads of the 2 noble families, the Farnwin family and Hawkwood family, managed to escape with severe injuries. Making Claire rest, he then left Claire's room and went to the throne hall to announce the pregnancy matter. His subjects congratulated him and praised him. He felt rather awkward. Even though he was the emperor, he had not received teachings on how to be an emperor because he was 5th in line to the throne, the 5th prince in the past. He liked to be free and unrestrained but had no choice other than to be an emperor. He could only take this position because his family in the capital was entirely annihilated. Only his 7th and 8th brother were alive and somewhere out there, perhaps, adventuring in a danger zone, but he didn't have the means to contact them either. Perhaps, they had lost their lives without even having their corpses intact. Such cases weren't uncommon as well, but from his investigations, the rebelled noble families seemed to have no idea about these 2 brothers of his, hence, causing him to have some hope. Logan had lost too much in this internal war, and he utterly hated the 6 noble families for it. He wished he could find and kill the 2 heads of the Farnwin family and Hawkwood family, who had escaped. His only support was his wife, Claire. Then his son, Davis, became his heir. But now, he felt distanced himself from his son. Even things have grown awkward between the 3 of them. Hence, he rather felt ridiculous for it. Somewhere in his heart, he felt that he should make this right. So, at night after much deliberation, he decided to visit his son, Davis. Explore 36 BHK luxury residences with retail, clubhouse and more. Spacious 4 BHK at Hiranandani Panvel from 3.01 Cr. Launching 2 BHK sports-themed homes at Hiranandani in Panvel. Davis was in the study. He was still in the mood to learn about this world and hence, had his gaze concentrated on one of the many books that were stored in the bookshelves here. The child's body had influenced him greatly, and he was well aware of that. Even if he had a yearning for familial love in the past, it didn't mean that he wanted it now, but he unexpectedly got a loving family through the child's body he had possessed and even swore that he would live his portion. He felt that he should not disappoint this family, at least for the sake of the child he possessed. However, he had his own determination after all, or one could say that he directed his focus on other matters rather than to think about the earlier event. Knock. Davis. A voice could be heard from the other side of the door. It didn't sound stern but hesitant. "MHM? Father." Davis turned back and stood up. He narrowed his eyes, feeling rather confused as to why his father would visit at this time, but the earlier event made him quickly realize. Logan opened the door and entered as he looked around. There were a lot of books, stacked rows and rows upon the bookshelves. "You are still studying at this time?" Logan found a topic that he could start on. "MHM." Davis nodded. "I see, are you fine?" "MHM." Davis again nodded. A few words were exchanged, but perceiving that the conversation isn't going anywhere, Logan felt even more awkward. He then decided to be direct. "Davis, about the matter Earl. Can I speak?" Davis suddenly interrupted. Logan paused for a moment before nodding his head. "Go ahead." Davis took a deep breath before moving his lips. "Father, it's true that I am my own self, but it still will not change the fact that I am your son. In my previous life, I didn't have any parents nor siblings. I was just an orphan. I lived my whole life alone without any familial love. I didn't even have anyone to accompany me in that life, and I lived alone in solitude. If you want me to go, then I will immediately leave this place." Inadvertently, his eyes turned moist. "But it's just that, can I also be a part of this family?" Tears fell out of his eyes while he possessed a gaze that was full of longing for familial love. Logan kneeled and held his son's shoulders. "You are a part of this family," he strongly replied, his eyes full of resolve and commitment for the future. Chapter 9, First Princess. The next day. "Mother." "Davis." Claire expressed her astonishment as her face changed into one of affection. She initially thought that she wouldn't be able to see him for a while since the earlier event felt rather forced. Davis obtained permission from his father to meet his mother. Although things were fine now, the matters of the heart are difficult to comprehend. It remained difficult for his father to accept the status quo immediately. As for when he will accept Davis wholeheartedly, only time will tell. "Mother. How are you?" Seeing that Claire was genuinely happy seeing him, he knew it was fine for him to act like a child again. Although there was no need for pretense, he felt that he should be like this and not act out of character. The image of a 3-year-old child acting as if he knew it all would rather embarrass him even more and would be so out of place in reality. "Davis, you don't know how I missed you. Come here, let me give you a kiss." Claire beckoned. Davis approached closer to Claire, and he got a peck on his forehead. He further realized that the previous event didn't cause any estrangement between the two of them. Perhaps, she was doing this exactly to not let any difference come between them. Looking at her treating him the same way she treated him before, knowing that he gained his previous memories, Davis inwardly became hardened. After that, Davis talked to his mother about what happened with his father. "It's good that you two talked it through, Davis. Mother will only be accompanying you for a few months. Let me give you an amulet." "What's this?" The amulet was bright purple, glistening like a gem. "It's an accessory that is capable of hiding your soul forging cultivation, Have it worn on you always," Claire said with a serious expression on her face. Davis became extremely touched, but a moment later, he realized that he was duped by his mother yesterday. He discerned that he could have used this amulet to hide his soul-forging cultivation from his father. He decided to play a little joke on her to get back at her. "Hee, mother, am I getting a little monster?" "Little monster?" Claire became momentarily confused before realizing it. You dare to say that your little sibling is a monster?" Claire made a face full of fake anger while smiling. Davis instantly rose to the air and floated. "Whoa! What? Mother!" He struggled in the air. Pub Future ads. "Now that I remember that I haven't given you any punishments since you always seem to complete assignments way before time, this is a good opportunity for me to teach you a lesson," Claire said teasingly. Davis realized that Claire was using this opportunity to be perhaps closer to him. His lips upturned, an acute yet pitiful expression emerged on his face, which immediately made Claire reluctant to give any punishment. She made Davis come closer as she opened her arms to hug him. Davis immediately thought that his act worked. When he came closer, Claire made him bend around. Mom! Slap! Ah! Davis cried out in pain and shock. "You think you can get out of this just by playing innocent?" Claire scoffed as a grin emerged on her face. Slap! 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 Davis got his small butt slapped so hard that it turned red behind the small robes he wore. Argh! Those slaps were truly painful but tolerable. Damn, I stepped on a landmine. Davis thought, now he knew how much she truly loved her kids. Playing a bad joke on her had instead backfired on him. It had been a miscalculation on his part. Davis, who had only seen Claire's affectionate side, failed to see her scary side. She is still the Empress, for heaven's sake. Mother! I'm sorry. Davis cried out with a fake apology. Good, you should have said this earlier. Claire smiled with a smug expression on her face before giggling. Looks like I have to teach you manners as well, you naughty child. I hear and obey, your majesty. Davis said while making an adorable face. You only know how to joke. Claire tried to spank Davis again. Davis immediately struggled away from her grasp and ran away from her. Haha! You can't catch me. Come back. Claire saw his small stature disappear from her view before a smile unknowingly lit up her face. Ads by Pub Future. Pub Future ads. 3 months passed. Every day was filled with joy for Claire and Davis. Not only did she teach him more about this world, but she also played together as well as studied together with him for 3 whole months. Then various tutors were assigned to Davis, who then all diligently taught him. There were not many eligible imperial tutors since most of them were killed along with the imperial family, or executed for taking the side of the rebels. Hence, most of them were new tutors who concentrated on topics like history, geography, and other subjects relevant to the cultivation world. Claire was officially ordered by the emperor to rest for the remaining 6 months. Of course, whenever Davis had time, he went to visit his mother almost every day. Davis needed to act like a child in front of everyone except his mother and father. His father and mother permitted him to do that. In fact, they even laughed behind him. They had to admit that his acting skills were quite excellent. 6 months passed. Logan was walking to and fro with a stiff expression on his face. Although nothing would happen to Claire, he was no longer sure after a monster like Davis was born. He inadvertently started thinking about all possible worst-case scenarios. Father! Davis, who was beside him, shouted. Don't worry. Nothing will happen to Mother. Davis was quite composed compared to his father. After being in this body for months, he had become used to it and brought his nerves and unchecked emotions under his control. At least, he felt that he managed to keep it under his control. Logan nodded his head, but he still couldn't get his nervousness out of his head. A scream of agony and heavy breathing could be heard suddenly, followed by a cacophony of a crying baby. Claire. Logan hurriedly went inside the Empress's room. Davis also followed him inside. There were also other people beside them, but no one dared to follow after them. Inside the room, Claire was holding a newborn baby while beaming resplendently. She looked like an angel, and her smile lit the whole room with brightness. Logan remained stunned at the scene while Davis had his attention on the newcomer. Logan went beside her and shifted his attention to the baby. "It's a girl," Claire said with a smile on her face. Claire knew that she would get a girl baby, but she kept it a secret from everyone. She looked at Davis and said, "Davis, you're a big brother now." My sister." Davis was dumbfounded at the prospect of his sister's birth, even though he knew this would happen eventually because of the general birth rate. This world wasn't like the modern world, and people rarely stopped with a single baby, mostly because the chances that an heir would die is exceptionally high due to various reasons, mostly stemming from violent conflict. Explore 36 BHK luxury residences with retail, clubhouse and more. Spacious 4 BHK at Hiranandani Panvel from 3.01 cr. 2 BHK homes with wide sun decks at the arena, Hiranandani, Panvel. Logan took hold of the baby from Claire. He stared at her small expressionless yet cute face with a gaze full of love. "Claire, she looks just like you, an angel. Didn't we decide if the baby were a girl, I'd get to name her?" Claire asked as she giggled. "Yes, even though I wanted to." Logan had a face full of dissatisfaction as he muttered, "Damn. Our little princess will be named Clara Lorette." Clara Lorette, a good name. Logan became a little happy with this name as it sounded similar to Claire, while Davis kept mumbling the name in his mind. A year passed. Davis started to learn about cultivation during this time. He was waiting for another year to pass so that he could start cultivating. Children in this world seemed to start cultivating when they were 5 years old, but it differs depending on the child's physique. Some children start cultivating at 5, and some at 8 or even 10. "Davis!" Claire called out to him. Mother." Davis was in the castle library reading books about cultivation. "Davis, I don't have to say it myself, but you, a capable genius, should know that no one has no way to cultivate soul-forging cultivation before they reach the revolving core stage. At least to my knowledge, I have never heard of such characters." "Yes, you mentioned it to me before, Mother." Davis instantly responded. Claire nodded her head and then revealed an ecstatic smile. "You are quite lucky because we are the only empire in this continent who specializes in soul-forging cultivation." "Really?" Davis asked in excitement. "Other sects, clans, various families also have soul-forging cultivation manuals, but they don't compare to ours." "That's great." Davis had an elated expression on his face. "Then, that means that I can advance in soul-forging cultivation faster and earlier than anyone else my age in this world." "Don't celebrate too soon." Claire looked as if she was going to pour cold water over his face. "Out of the 3 cultivation systems, soul-forging cultivation is the hardest to cultivate. This fact does not even need to be debated. You have achieved nascent soul stage before reaching revolving core stage. The soul-forging cultivation manuals in our continent can only be cultivated after reaching revolving core stage. At that stage, you can sense the changes in the heaven and earth required for soul-forging cultivation. If you can't cultivate your soul after a year with our soul-forging cultivation manual, then you will have to reach revolving core stage before training in it again, which makes your cultivation speed the same as any royal family children." Claire decided to put down his ego first, hence, she explained. "What the fuck?" Davis looked speechless. "There goes my genius chronicle down the drain." His nascent soul stage cultivation turned out to be useless unless he could cultivate and reach the revolving core stage to make his senses stronger. Chapter 10, Cultivation Techniques. I'm sorry, Davis, but I have no way to teach you soul forging cultivation since our starting point differs. I could offer you help if you were at the revolving core stage. However, you will have to rely on your comprehension to learn how to cultivate your soul without reaching revolving core stage. Claire said with a helpless expression on her face. I understand, Mother. Davis understood that almost all people couldn't sense the soul without any cultivation, but that wouldn't stop him from advancing forwards. He was sure that he would just take a few extra steps and stumble at certain points before officially beginning to cultivate his soul. Mother, I want a nascent soul stage soul forging cultivation manual of our family now. Davis had an idea of where he should start, but he needed permission as always. Davis, you aren't allowed to cultivate until you're 5 years old. Claire warned with a stern expression on her face. I know, Mother. I just want to learn the manual to find a way to cultivate without reaching the revolving core stage, and I promise that I won't cultivate until I'm 5 years old. Claire looked pensive. She heaved a sigh and nodded her head. Sigh, I'll talk to your father about it. Then, I'll come to play with Clara afterward. Davis excitedly uttered. Of course. However, Clara fancies you more than me. What kind of tricks did you play on her? Claire asked with an expression full of fake anger. Secret. Davis smirked and ran away. 6 months passed. Pub Future ads. After gaining permission from his father, he learned and inferred many nascent soul stage soul forging cultivation manuals. Davis worked hard to find a way so as to find a way to cultivate the soul. Logan personally started to teach him about all 3 types of cultivation, especially the basics of soul forging cultivation. After 6 months, Davis firmly grasped how to cultivate his soul normally when one reaches revolving core stage, but he couldn't fathom on how to cultivate without entering it. In fact, it was a miracle that he achieved the nascent soul stage without cultivating in a specific soul forging cultivation manual. Since Davis couldn't find a way to cultivate, he tried asking various personalities in a roundabout way. Good day, Crown Prince. The librarian greeted Davis. Good day, Mr. Oxford. Davis greeted. Mr. Oxford was the librarian of the royal castle. He was 181 centimeters tall, with a suave and gentlemanly face. But he looked quite old when perceived in a mortal's standard, around 50 years of age. His real age was unknown to Davis, but he knew that his question might be answered if he asked. Our prince is so studious. Our empire will surely be stable and powerful in the years to come. Oxford complimented with a sincere smile on his face. Thank you, Mr. Oxford. Davis reciprocated the smile with an innocent expression. Can I ask you a question? The prince has a question for me? I will try to answer my best. Which stage are you in the essence gathering cultivation system? Davis asked with a curious expression on his face. I'm in the revolving core stage. However, it doesn't compare to your talented imperial father, who had recently reached the law seed stage just before the rebellion ended. Really? Father has achieved law seed stage. Davis became astonished. Ads by Pub Future. Pub Future ads. Davis finished reading about the basics of cultivation, so he knew the order of cultivation stages up to the 5th stage for all 3 cultivation systems. Yes. Mr. Oxford replied with a proud smile on his face, perhaps, proud of the Lowrit Empire's young emperor. The law seed stage is the 5th stage in the essence gathering cultivation system. It is difficult to attain it without resources and comprehension. Only the top powers of the continent have a powerhouse of the law seed stage. Logan's royal father, the previous emperor, was originally a law seed stage expert, but he died, triggering the start of the rebellion. Then what about my father's soul forging cultivation? Oh, Aren't you in a hurry to learn about your father? Oxford teased but continued, your father is at the peak level of the young soul stage, the third stage of soul forging cultivation. Meanwhile, I am only at the peak level of the nascent soul stage. Oxford sighed. Only the third stage? And Mr. Oxford only reached the peak of the first stage in soul forging cultivation. Davis was shocked at their slow speed in soul cultivation. The young soul stage is the third stage of soul forging cultivation. Oh, it isn't easy to cultivate the soul, my prince. Your Highness needs plenty of resources that tempers and refines your soul. Other than that, you need to perceive heaven and earth energy and resonate to comprehend the relevant mysteries required to enter the next level and stage. Without them, you can only slowly progress at a snail's pace. Training in the soul. Oxford looked as if he lamented that he couldn't cultivate his soul at a steady pace. It is very difficult. I understand, then I'll see you around. Davis kept nodding his head and took his leave. Davis walked absent-mindedly, thinking of a solution to the problem that he currently faced. No matter how he thought, he couldn't think of a solution with his current knowledge. Forget it, I'll eventually find a way to temper my soul. Davis gave up temporarily and went to play with his mother and sister. Clara was now able to form 3 to 4 words of sentences. He took his time playing, keeping his little sister entertained and making her cry accidentally, which makes Claire slap his butt out of this world. In this elevated life that didn't seem like how an imperial person would live, he lived rather carefreely without any burdens in his life other than learning imperial ethics and other subjects from the tutors. Other than not being allowed out of the royal castle, he was rather an unobstructed, free soul who could go anywhere and disturb any person he wanted as long as it wasn't the emperor and the empress. Of course, they rarely rejected his presence unless they had some work. 3 BHK homes with wide sun decks at the arena, Hiranandani, Panvel. 2 BHK homes with wide sun decks at the arena, Hiranandani, Panvel. Thinking about IVF? Ask our specialists in a free consultation. 8 months later. Davis reached his 5th birthday and officially earned the freedom to cultivate. He learned more about all 3 cultivation systems and got the cultivation manuals of all 3 of them 6 months ago. The 3 cultivation manuals he procured from the Royal Library were all Sky-grade manuals. Sky-grade manuals were reserved only for the royal family members and those who produce top achievements beneficial to the Lower Empire. Sky-grade cultivation techniques aren't easily available on this continent. They weren't just rare, but all available Sky-grade manuals are already in the hands of the Grand Sea continent's top powers. No mid-level auctions even dared to sell one in their place, and at most, only the higher-tier powers will dare to sell them. The cultivation manuals he chose with the help of his father and mother, were named, Tyrant Body Secrets, Extinction Lightning Judgment, and Sacred Luminance Mist. Tyrant Body Secrets is a mid-level Sky-grade manual, a body tempering cultivation manual. It has 5 layers in it with each of its layers corresponding to the stages in the cultivation system. The first layer is comprehended upon entering the first stage, the second layer is comprehended upon entering the second stage, and so on so forth. Extinction Lightning Judgment is also a mid-level Sky-grade manual. It is an essence-gathering cultivation manual. It also has 5 layers. Sacred Luminance Mist is a mid-level Sky-grade manual. It is a soul-tempering cultivation technique, and it also has 5 layers in it. No top power in this continent has a Sky-grade soul cultivation technique, at least publicly, and only the Lower Empire holds a monopoly over it. However, there were still some powers that secretly held Sky-grade soul forging cultivation manuals but failed to cultivate a worthy heir. Lower Empire has 3 Sky-grade soul forging cultivation techniques. 2 low-level and 1 mid-level Sky-grade manuals. After getting all the cultivation manuals required for him to make progress in his cultivation, his father tutored him about all 3 cultivation nalas, further increasing his knowledge up to the second stage of all 3 cultivation systems. Father, I still haven't gotten an idea on how to cultivate the soul. However, Davis was still depressed. He had rather managed to comprehend the basics of even the second stage in soul forging cultivation but still failed to see how he could cultivate his soul. Don't sweat it. You are still a 5-year-old child. You have plenty of opportunities to try some ideas in the future. But no buts, you can concentrate on the other 2 cultivation systems for now. Logan noticed something and started to leave with rather grand strides. Father? Where are you going? Davis became bewildered as their discussion was not over yet. It's time for me to break through. Logan excitedly smirked. Chapter 11, Enlightenment. 3 hours later. Davis. Claire arrived outside the Emperor's room. Davis, who was standing outside, clearly looked as if he were waiting for his father to come out. He thought he would be able to see his father achieve a breakthrough rather quickly in one of the 3 cultivation systems, but it seems like his father entered closed-door cultivation since it concerns the advancing of the soul. Advancing in soul-forging cultivation requires almost absolute silence with peace and serenity, but it is still possible to make a breakthrough in the midst of a battle only under certain conditions. After all, emotions play a huge and vital role in soul-forging cultivation. Mother, Father is currently. I heard, what's the situation now? Claire had a worried expression on her face. Everything is fine for now, at least. Davis slightly shrugged, we can only wait for my father to come out. The 2 stayed silent after that and waited for 10 minutes, which seemed rather long. As Claire felt fidgety, she glanced at Davis, who looked slightly worried the same, so she said, all right Davis, you can go do whatever. Suddenly a majestic aura spread with luminance brightening the entire room that Logan stayed, overflowed outside before quietly subsiding down as if the light never appeared in the first place. Davis and Claire rather had solemn expressions on their faces. After a minute, Logan walked out with a worn-down expression on his face while his posture was slumped dejectedly. Claire immediately went to hold his palm with a concerned expression on his face seeing that her husband had walked out sadly. I failed. A soft voice echoed from Logan's mouth, rather meek for his stature as the Emperor. A bright luminance surrounded Logan, which subtly started healing his wounded soul. Claire emitted the temporarily blinding luminance as she also trained in sacred luminance mist. Sacred soul healing is the ability that a person comprehends when one reaches the 3rd stage, hence this ability is the 3rd layer that is recorded in the manual. Don't worry, dear. You can definitely succeed the next time. Claire tried to comfort. 9 The Vampire Diaries scenes that will make your heart race. Her beauty. Ads by Pub Future. It's useless. Logan muttered again. He dropped his head down. Why? Claire asked, not understanding his meaning. Logan looked at her, his eyes reflecting her confused expression and uttered, heart demon. Claire realized but was not surprised. She knew that Logan lost his family and hadn't completely freed himself from its clutches yet. He still hadn't fulfilled his vengeance because of those 2 heads of the noble families who ran away. This matter had been heavily weighing down on his heart ever since then, blocking him from having a breakthrough. Claire suddenly blinked. She realized that she hadn't seen show his worry out, perhaps, just to keep others from worrying for him. Claire immediately felt extremely guilty that she wasn't intimate with him during the 3-year rebellion period. She bit her lips and just embraced him. She didn't opt to say anything, just staying like that while all she felt that she could do was just provide some warmth for him. Davis just left, giving them the time for them to talk alone. 3 days later. Davis became ready to cultivate his body tempering cultivation. The first 2 stages in body tempering cultivation were extremely easy for the imperial family to cultivate. Why? It was because they had plenty of resources to temper the body. It also became easier for them to cultivate to the 3rd stage of body tempering cultivation because of the loot gained from the rebellion. The royal Lowrit family lost more lives than their wealth. It was such an irony that many people even formed conspiracy theories that the current Emperor Logan Lowrit had plotted this whole scenario. However, conspiracies were just conspiracies. Without evidence to even form an anchor, they would be quickly squashed under the fist of strength. Davis went to meet his father to consult whether he should make his first breakthrough in body tempering cultivation so soon. After all, he was just 5 years old. "Father, is it okay for me to cultivate in body tempering cultivation now?" Logan thought for a moment before replying. Most children only start to cultivate body tempering cultivation only when they are 10 years old. After all, body tempering cultivation involves extreme pain when cultivating it. It requires extreme resilience. However, I won't stop you from cultivating it, but are you up to the task? Logan asked with a sharp voice. "Beatings?" Davis's small sapphire eyes flashed. Physical abuse was etched into his bones, but since his father was asking for proof. Ads by Pub Future. Pub Future ads. "My previous life was filled with pain, both mentally and physically. I am sure that I am up for the task, father," Davis said with confidence etched on his face. "Good, that's my son." Logan nodded and smiled proudly, but his eyes suddenly flashed while a kick abruptly landed on Davis out of nowhere, sending him flying. Gark! Davis flew out and rolled on the floor miserably. He spat out a mouthful of blood as he held his stomach, his pupils twitching in pain. He instantly tried to stand up but couldn't, no matter how he attempted. Painful, it became extremely painful for him in his abdomen. It hurt like hell. "Yes. I almost forgot this body isn't used to pain." Davis instantly realized that he confused this with his past life. His calm mind was still able to think under intolerable pain, perhaps because of his low-level nascent soul stage cultivation. "What? That's it? You couldn't even take a single hit? You should just give up body tempering cultivation," Logan shouted furiously. "I should not be doing this, but it seems that he relies on his previous experience as a mortal in this world. That won't work, I have to teach him the ways of this world as a cultivator," Logan thought as he narrowed his eyes. "No. I can stand up," Davis cried. Tears automatically cascaded down his cheeks upon receiving such an injury for the first time. Davis struggled to stand up. He spat out his bloodied saliva and, after 2 tries, managed to stand up with his legs wobbling as if it would be unable to support his negligible weight. "Come!" Davis shouted. Logan's eyes flashed at his son's resilience. He didn't think that Davis would manage to stand up. It was unexpected to him. "Good then, because I'm not going to stop till you give up." The one-sided beatings went on for about 10 minutes. Every part of Davis's body received injuries except his life jewels. The floor was full of fresh bloodstains. It was such a hardcore training that it didn't even make him feel the pain of his past. "It's fine if you give up now, Davis." Logan looked at his son's battered silhouette. In fact, he had been holding back a lot. One single punch of his fist was enough to explode his son into smithereens, and even he didn't feel like continuing anymore, afraid that he would really cause his son to die. These injuries were nothing as he could always heal it with a capable healing pill, but that didn't mean that he was willing to harm his own son. However, he said that he wouldn't stop until his son said so, and there was still no sign of his son giving up. It put him in a tough spot as he wanted to respect his son's, or rather the determined soul in his son's body. Explore 36 BHK luxury residences with retail, clubhouse and more. Unveil the arena, live where elite comfort meets adventure. Spacious 4 BHK at Hiranandani Panvel from 3.01 cr. Logan silently gulped as he inwardly sighed, "My child. What have you experienced in your previous life to be this stubborn? Endurance is something built over time. You must give up now." "No. Ple, please continue." Davis thought that he had to show more resilience and determination so that his father will approve of him to be able to cultivate sooner. After all, the sooner, the better. Besides, the notes had written it all. Body tempering cultivation is about endurance. The more you could endure, the more breakthroughs a person could experience in body tempering cultivation. Endure the pain and conquer it. This is what it means to temper one's body. As for paying back this debt, he could do that after he has grown up. Secretly, Davis started to hold a grudge against his father, albeit a healthy one. Please give up. If you get any more thrashings, I'm not sure that I will be able to escape Claire's wrath. Logan made a wry face inwardly. This situation where both didn't want to stop continued for about 5 more minutes. It's enough, Davis. You can now give up. Logan had enough of Davis's determination, anymore, and he was sure that he'd be ignored by Claire again for who knows how long if he doesn't give up. Besides, his son's figure completely made him hold back his punches as much as he could, to the extreme, but even then. No, please, continue. Davis's face was injured fully. He had lost more than 3 teeth while his left cheek had slightly caved in. His arms and legs were trembling, but he still had determination etched on his face. He couldn't see what was in front of him anymore as he was rather feeling dizzy. Logan dropped his battle posture and made a wry face as he felt his heart ache. Why do you try so hard? Davis tried to make his trembling feet stable. He looked at his father's blurred face as he creased his eyes. Want to protect everyone I love. He panted, I want to protect mother, protect Clara, and even you, father. For that, I need strength as soon as possible. Just when he was about to finish saying his heartfelt emotions, his eyes inadvertently closed as he found himself collapsing. Logan made a dumbfounded face while he watched his son collapse and muttered, protect our family? Protect me? A 5-year-old child protecting me? Logan suddenly started laughing out loud in an uproarious manner. I am so ashamed of myself. I am so lost in hatred and arrogance that I forgot about my family's safety. Ha ha ha. Logan shook his head. The regret I had for letting those 2 ingrates escape has caged me in, and I'm so shallow to focus my mind on those 2. The instant Logan realized that, he started releasing a majestic aura filled with sacred luminance illuminating the room. It was just a moment. He instantly made a breakthrough to the adult soul stage. The 4th stage in soul forging cultivation. Thank you, Davis. I was able to realize what's more important to me. Logan smiled at his son with a grateful expression on his face. He finally had his last wall of caution against his son's abnormality break. Chapter 12, Addition and Determination. On the same day, Claire noticed the commotion in her room from one of the castle maids. She then heard from Logan that he had managed to break through to the adult soul stage, and she was so ecstatic that she wanted to share her happiness with Davis as well. But when she saw the fainted and injured Davis, she grew so angry that she slapped Logan heavily that formed an imprint on his cheek. She then didn't speak to him afterward. Claire thought Logan injured Davis because of that event before, but Logan immediately explained to her about what had happened. She only listened and didn't interfere as she hoped that what she had feared didn't come true. Her expression relaxed, understanding that it was just a misunderstanding again, but didn't bother replying to him. She immediately started to apply some medicinal paste on Davis. The royal family has treasures capable of instant recovery, but those were too strong for Davis. Claire would have immediately fed him that, but his body would have burst apart without any powerful external help. Claire would have done it herself as she was powerful enough, but Logan wanted to make him slowly heal so as not to leave any sequela behind in his body. Of course, Claire only listened to him when he said that Davis wanted to train in body tempering techniques. Otherwise, she would have immediately fed him medicines capable of instant recovery and helped him recover through guiding the essence of the medicinal pill with her essence energy. Logan knew that this would happen beforehand, so he comforted himself by thinking that it is only a matter of time before she gives up ignoring him. The next day, at the study. Hiss. Davis woke up and immediately felt both warm and painful. My wounds are healing rather quickly. He sensed that most of his bruises had disappeared and his teeth started growing again. Davis can use soul sense from the time he made a breakthrough, but at his level, he can only use it to sense his whole body. That was his current limit. His soul sense still wasn't able to leave his body like the others, like his father or mother. Pub Future adds. Davis. Claire, who was seated beside him, happily echoed before asking in a worried tone. Are you fine? I'm fine, mother, although it hurts a little bit. Davis said truthfully with a wry smile on his face. That scoundrel, he went too far again. Claire hatefully grit her teeth. Mother, no. I was the one who asked him to temper me. So it's in no way father's fault. Don't fight with father because of it. Davis didn't want to create a rift between his new family members. Besides, with his help, I am now able to cultivate my body even more flawlessly. Davis displayed a wide smile, which rather revealed his 3 teeth that were growing currently. Davis wasn't going to be salty with those injuries. He was self-aware that he was the one who asked for it, and although his father was the one who started it, he was the one who was stubborn and didn't give up. Claire looked at his clear eyes and sighed. All right, I won't hold this against your father. I know that he isn't in the wrong either, it's just, how dare he beat you up? Claire fumed with a wronged expression on her face. Just at that moment, Logan entered the room without knocking. He had a wry smile on his face. Claire saw him entering and immediately harumphed in dissatisfaction. Claire, listen to me. Claire had a sudden change of expression and rapidly ran away to the restroom. Strange sounds could be heard. Davis and Logan became dumbfounded. They had this extreme sense of déjà vu to this bizarre situation. They looked at each other, one smiled lewdly while the other had a straight expression on his face. Ads by Pub Future. Pub Future ads. Claire returned, walking out of the restroom with an awkward expression on her face. Are you two, rabbits? Davis smirked and laughed in a lewd way. Claire blushed heavily and didn't dare to say anything. She remained extremely reserved for any topic concerning procreation. Meanwhile, the one who had the straight face coughed and said shamelessly. Of course, as the Emperor of the Lowered Empire, I have the responsibility to produce more offspring so as not to make our empire meet its end. Logan looked at her with a profound expression on his face after stating as if it were normal. The two of them then looked at each other and laughed while Claire had her face even more buried down due to extreme embarrassment. I'm going to kill you all! She screamed. The two of them immediately ran away from the study while laughing. A week later. Davis trained his body lightly in the meantime. He improved his physique little by little. However, he didn't forget about his soul-forging cultivation, which was stuck. One of the immediate solutions to cultivate his soul was to sense the changes in heaven and earth, but he was unable to do that since he was only at the low-level nascent soul stage. His soul sense was unable to go out of his body and unable to feel the heaven and earth energy directly, so he could only obediently look for other methods to cultivate the soul. Davis heard from his mother how his father managed to break through by conquering his heart demon, just like how he was able to do it initially. Davis then learned more about heart demons from the Royal Library and affirmed that the only way to have a breakthrough in his soul-forging cultivation is to conquer his heart demons. At least, for his current situation. But, he was sure that he had no heart demons presently since he had already resolved one. A heart demon is not exactly a demon. It's just an inner thought that is capable of corroding one's mind and soul. In fact, heart demons were the cause of most people's cultivation to stagnate. If one cannot let go of it or manage to conquer it, then one's cultivation will be potentially locked for the rest of their life. Davis had no way to implement this method after learning about it since he thought he didn't have a heart demon. Launching 2 BHK sports-themed homes at Hiranandani in Panvel. 2 BHK homes with wide sun decks at the arena, Hiranandani, Panvel. Thinking about IVF? Ask our specialists in a free consultation. Claire was resting in her room, periodically looking out the window, which rather opened up to beautiful moonlit scenery. Mother, I don't think I have any heart demons now. How can I then increase my soul-forging cultivation? Davis stated lamentably. Claire was dumbfounded for a moment before she laughed. Davis, only peak experts can tell whether they have heart demons or not. Do you think yourself to be a peak expert? Not even your father is considered a peak expert in this entire world. Hearing that, Davis blinked, realized that he was getting full of himself. He was immediately embarrassed. His father could be considered peak expert in the Grand Sea continent, but his mother told otherwise? Davis didn't ponder on it too much. Davis, conquering a heart demon on your own is no easy process. It is hundreds of times harder than naturally conquering it through enlightenment. If you failed to conquer it on your own, you would easily receive various backlashes, and the worst case scenario may even change your personality to be more twisted. Claire shook her head and explained to him seriously. Seeing Davis's depressed face, she half-heartedly asked, Davis, do you want to confront your heart demon? Yes. Davis had a determined expression on his face. He had a bit of curiosity about what his heart demon will be like. No. Mother won't allow you. Claire seriously uttered as she shook her head. Then I'll go ask father about it. Davis just shrugged and stood up, ready to leave. You're not allowed to. Davis immediately started walking away. He opened the door and took a step out. Fine. You win, come back. Claire sighed as she thought about these two people who gave her headaches all the time. Since Logan had dared to beat Davis up, she was sure that he would allow Davis to challenge that and might even endanger him with provocation. Davis returned with an obedient-looking expression on his face. You're not going to reconsider? Your future is long and plentiful. Claire asked, wanting him to reconsider. No. Davis replied as a matter of fact. This is not a game, one wrong move and you're done for. Claire said seriously. Davis's heart skipped a beat, but he still possessed a determined expression on his face. Claire sighed and looked at him. Have you heard about the Redemption Tower? The one that is nearby the Imperial Prison and mostly used by prisoners who are deemed redeemable in a sense. Chapter 13, Redemption Tower. Davis thought for a moment before answering, I have heard about it before. Wasn't it used to free prisoners or criminals who had a change of heart? Isn't that why it was named Redemption Tower? You're right, but the truth is very different from the known facts. Claire shook her head lightly. First, there are 3 levels to clear the Redemption Tower. Many prisoners will give anything up to have a chance at the Redemption Tower. Skipping over the first 2 levels, what you need to know is about the 3rd level, the last level, the Redemption level. That is where the prisoners face their heart demons and cleanse their soul of impurities. If a prisoner clears the last level, they would even have a chance of being recruited by the imperial family. Claire sighed. However, all of this is partially true, and part lies. The truth is that no prisoner will be able to clear the level as it would use up the treasure placed in the formation. It only induces the arousal of the heart demon with the help of the formation. While the prisoner is busy taking care of the heart demon, another formation will act. Once the prisoner manages to clear the last level, the other formation placed there will imprint a slave seal on their souls. The imperial family then takes them and assigns them to a certain squad or place them openly in the army. That slave has no choice but to obey the imperial family. This is the ugly truth, and it is certainly a part of this empire. Claire looked at Davis's dumbfounded expression. What? Did you get disgusted by our empire? Claire asked while smiling weakly. There was a moment of silence. Yes, because being a slave. I've experienced it once, and it sucks a lot. Davis laughed ruefully. Claire became shocked at his revelation. But, if they were used to protect you and father during the rebellion, then all is worth it. I don't care as long as those scums live their lives protecting mother and father. Whoa! You have some twisted views over there, but protecting mother and father instead of the empire. I like it. Claire smirked as she chuckled. Would you meet a lush woman like her? Her beauty. Ads by Pub Future. But, you are indeed sharp, they were used as meat shields for us to protect us from the rebels. I did feel some pity for them at first, but after learning that they did some evil crimes, I stopped caring about it. Claire explained her experiences and said, Davis, remember, we as the royal family won't hesitate to sacrifice others' lives as long as we can protect our family. Davis nodded his head, giving her a sign that he understood the meaning behind it. He had the same idea because he felt that he couldn't be the same as he was on Earth in this world. There, he could afford not to kill people and live, but here. He narrowed his eyes. He was very clear that he would have to step on thousands of corpses to reach the apex. However, for his kind and caring mother to utter these kinds of words. Did she experience betrayal in the past? Davis mused as he didn't know his mother's past. The only thing he knew that she wasn't a person of the Lowrit Empire before she married Logan. I'll ask Deer to disable the first 2 levels and place the full, complete formation, to help one in conquering heart demons in the 3rd level. Normally, unless in an emergency, we won't use the treasure, but since you are a genius in soul forging cultivation, more importantly, since you are my son, we can't miss this opportunity either. Claire beamed. Thank you, Mother. Hearing that, Davis became ecstatic. He was rather worried that she really wouldn't allow him, but respecting his wishes, she allowed. ===============================================================================================================================================================================================================================================================================================================================================10 Davis wore a black robe and a mask that covered his features and his body. For his small stature that wore a black robe, he could well scare people in the night, walking outside like a small ghost. You sure are lucky, only less than 10% of the potency of the treasure is left, which is more than enough for your stage, or else if the potency were more than 50%, I would have used it to break through long ago. Logan lamented as he said. Claire didn't come. Hence, Davis was accompanied by his father, anonymously. His soul-forging cultivation was meant to be kept a secret after all. Ads by Pub Future. Pub Future ads. But, are you sure that you are up to the task? Logan cast an eye on him and probed. Davis nodded his head and didn't say anything. Logan knew that he couldn't change his child's mind, so he didn't say any more. Davis started walking in the direction of the Redemption Tower. Then go straight to the 3rd level, which is on the 3rd floor of the Redemption Tower. Make sure you conquer your heart demon, from your previous life. Davis paused for a moment before starting to walk ahead again. His lips curved into a smile, hidden behind the robe's hood. In the Redemption Tower, the 3rd floor. A silhouette could be seen coming out of the entrance at the 3rd level. Davis removed his hood and investigated the room. The surroundings were brightly lit, glowing like a sacred place. There was an altar in the center that stood tall. The room was filled with candles around the bright altar. In the center of the altar, there was a mat that made it obvious for him to recognize. He moved straight to the mat and sat on it. When he sat on it, the ceiling above the room vibrated and covered him in a spherical glow of light. Davis knew that the formation had started, so he started cultivating sacred luminance mist. He then realized that he was slowly starting to get dizzy. It felt like something was trying to get hold of his heart, like a pull of tug that could take his emotions away. He immediately concentrated on it. Before Davis could even realize, he was transported to a different place. Explore 36 BHK luxury residences with retail, clubhouse and more. 2 BHK homes with wide sun decks at the arena, Hiranandani, Panvel. Launching 2 BHK sports-themed homes at Hiranandani in Panvel. This? Where am I? Davis became startled even though he had been prepared. The change of scenery was just too quick. He checked his surroundings, and his eyes widened. This place seems oddly familiar. It's my old Cag home. Davis became shocked. He started to tremble in agitation. Calm down, me. This isn't reality, remember, yes, this is just my heart demon. Davis had a stiff face as he muttered, I didn't want to come back to this place ever again. The formation pretty much helped screw me over. Suddenly, a cry resounded out. Mr. Arg! Please don't hit me! A 10-year-old child cried miserably. His teeth were broken, and his body was covered full of bruises. A middle-aged man could be seen stepping on the child. Ouch! Mister, please let me leave. Bang! The child was sent flying, kicked by the middle-aged man right on the stomach. The child spun in midair and crashed on the wall. Call me father, pet. The middle-aged man had a twisted expression on his face, clearly enjoying beating the child up. What was your name again? Ah, Tian Long? Right? Ha ha ha. From now on, you belong to me, and you are my slave. From now on, you are just a dog. Let me give you a dog's name, but wait, I guess you don't deserve a name, let me just call you Mutt. Ha ha ha. The middle-aged man laughed wildly. Davis, who was watching all this, produced an angry expression on his face, wanting to tear the good-looking middle-aged man in front of him to pieces. He ran towards the middle-aged man and delivered a full power blow to his face. Zzz. The middle-aged man's face distorted, letting his fists go through him. Davis stood behind the middle-aged man, his face revealing a dumbfounded expression. I can't touch him.